like to call this meeting to order, please. If you would stand for a moment of silence to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and thank you for coming this morning. We're very happy that you're willing to spend your morning with us. I don't have any public input cards. Does anyone happen to have one by chance that you'd like to turn in? Okay, if not, we are here this morning to conduct some very important business for the district. We will be listening to 3 architectural firms do presentations so that we can choose a firm for the Villages Elementary School. Good morning, sir. Good to see you. Without any further ado, are you going to help us out with that, sir? Yes. Okay, we're ready.
Good morning, members of the board. As the chairman of the board indicated that we're here to select, to do presentations for the architect and choose one of the architects that's going to be presenting before you today for the Beverly Shores, the Villages Elementary School project, renovation project. On 9/8, Procurement Services released the RFQ, and we've received 10 proposals for our consideration. A committee met on 11/14 and ranked all 10 vendors and selected the top 3 vendors to do presentations before you today. On 11/17, these shortlisted vendors did a site visit. They went to the school, met with the principal, met with the facilities team, and they did the tour of the school so that they can prepare the presentations for you today. These are the 3 vendors that were selected, and this is the order that they will be doing the presentations: Siskovich, Schenkel Scholes, and Rhodes and Brito. That's the order. Each will be allotted 20 minutes, and then after that, 10 to 15-minute Q&A. So you guys, if you have any questions regarding the presentations, I'll be keeping the time, so I'll let them know when it's about 5 minutes and then 2 minutes, and when the time is over. The presentation criteria were sent to them and to you in an email, and they're in front of you too. Knowledge of the site and local conditions, local area demographics, overall approach and methodology, and then cost control and value engineering. The goal is to score each presentation, and then the top ranked and high scoring vendor will be selected for the contract, and we'll enter into negotiation with them and if we don't come to terms within 45 days, then we're gonna move to the next vendor if we don't agree to terms. Price will not be considered at any time during the presentations. This will be discussed in the negotiation phase once we award the agreement. During the presentations, you may take notes so that you can refer back to them when you score them. However, keep in mind that all your notes are public knowledge, so they could be requested from anybody. During the presentations and then the Q&A, I would ask that you reserve any discussion in terms of who you liked and not until we go into the discussion phase once all 3 presentations are complete. Then you do the discussion like we did last time. And then input the scores in your scoring sheet. I'll collect them after the presentations, and then I'll look at the scores and present them to the superintendent with your recommendation. And once we do that, then we'll put them on the agenda for the next Monday's meeting. Basically, that's it. So you've done it. You guys are pros at it now. So, any questions? Good? Good. I know Kelly wants to talk to you a little bit about the site visit, so.
Yes, so just a couple of things that came up during the site visit. Our initial scope of work, we had put out a request for a prototype two-story classroom addition, basically thinking it would be the same thing that we built at Lost Lake, at, Pine Ridge, and we've built them in other places. None of the shortlisted firms came back with a prototype, so you'll probably see some variety in what you get in the presentations. While we were on the site visit, a question came up of whether we would look for a one-story or a two-story. We had initially thought a two-story, just thinking that it would be save land, save space, but we also said that we were open to a one-story if that would, save costs of the elevator, and some of the other things that we would have to look for. So you may see some variety there in what you get. Neither of those answers is necessarily wrong. The location also came up. Currently, we looked at the numbers for the Villages. The Villages is down a little bit. We don't expect that to continue. There are about 2,800 units in that area that are in active subdivisions, and that's about 500 students, elementary school students, that would generate. Villages Charter will probably pick up some of those, but, I expect Villages Elementary to pick up a lot of those students as well.
How many student stations are we targeting this addition to?
We said 12 classrooms, 240 student stations.
And any other, just classroom space or any other sort of component?
Mostly classroom space. It's, there's actually, so that was one of the things that we talked about as we went on the site visit, is that there's a lot of resource space already at the Villages, but one of the issues is that there are not a lot of bathrooms for those resource spaces, restrooms. So restroom access is an issue. So one of the things that we did talk about with the architects is that if we can address the restroom issue in the existing current permanent buildings, then there's a possibility that we could move all of those students that are in the portables into the main campus, and that addition could go where the portables are right now. So if you see that proposal, again, not necessarily a wrong answer, just something that would have to be addressed in order to move those students. And Greg feels strongly about those restrooms, so we would look for an answer to that as well, if they are proposing that it goes where the portables are.
I have
I
a
think
question.
that was largely what I was.
Do you know off the top of your head how many portables are there?
There are 8. And I think you said you had the third grade in there?
That's correct.
Greg, if you want to add?
Yeah, the only thing that I would add was there were 10 things on the things I was looking for, and the first 8 were restrooms. So, so basically, that's a top priority for us at the Villages. Right now, in our existing plan, there are no restrooms that are accessible from a hallway. All of them are inside of a classroom. And then, as was referred to previously, we have a lot of resource rooms, and within those resource rooms, there are no restrooms. And so those folks, if you're using a resource room, you have to step across the hall to another class, which is an intrusion, or go to the cafeteria, which is an inconvenience and takes away from instructional time, obviously. So that was one of the things that they asked me to prioritize, and really restrooms are a big deal. Also, restroom access from PE, and from my enrichment classes. So those are some of the things that were top priorities for me, as well as looking at signage and identifying the front office as the primary place to come to on the campus. That's not as well marked as it might be. And looking at our existing parking and car loop and bus loop. Those were the kind of the things that I mentioned as things that, would be improvements for us.
Is the intent of this to just eliminate the portables? Because you're not getting any more capacity if you're taking the portables out.
So we'll actually gain a little more capacity. There are 4 additional classrooms. We're looking at 12 instead of the 8 portables that we have. But largely, yes, it's portable replacement and some expansion for the school for future capacity. We also have a concurrency capacity issue there, simply because we can't go to adjacency in other areas. So we're looking to address that as well.
So may we see 2 different locations of the proposed building, whether it's essentially an extension of the main office building going down that way, or where the existing portables are?
You could see a couple of different
Okay.
suggestions.
Do you all have a preference on that in a perfect world? Is that a fair question to ask?
In a perfect world, what I would ask is that it not look like an afterthought, right?
Agreed.
Obviously, so it would be something that would be, supporting the existing design.
Yeah.
And then obviously looking at not intruding on our play areas for our
Yeah.
PE and those type of things.
Yeah.
So the portable area is a good location, and there may be others that I'm not
Okay.
an expert on.
Especially from the parking side of things, too. If
Right.
you extend that building, what does that do to parking? How far out does it go in that back 40? Yeah.
Anything further?
These items were discussed also with the shortlisted.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah, they were all
That
discussed
was
with them
all done.
during the visit and all that,
Yeah.
so they're aware of it.
And then one last one for me. So if we were to move forward, putting it where the existing portables are now, you think you've got enough classroom space to accommodate those kids in the short term, or do we need to move portables somewhere else, or?
In the short term, my teachers would buy into a short-term sacrifice, hardship, so to
Sure.
speak, for the long-term gain. I mean, we've already had those conversations, and they would buy into that. Ideally, there would be some way to address the restroom situations, and the 400 building is what it actually is that has the most VE-type pull-out support facilitation-type classrooms. If that could be addressed, it would make things easier for sure.
And there's no restrooms on the backside of that covered pavilion where PE is now?
That's correct. There are no restrooms there.
Okay. Could that be part of the scope regardless?
So that was actually
Okay.
part of our original published scope, was to provide restroom access for the PE.
Got it.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Good.
No. They
Ready to
were
go?
pretty satisfied.
All right, I'm going to call Ziskevich and have him set up, do a quick introduction of the team, and then we'll start the clock. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ziskevich, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Is this for me or is this yours?
That's mine.
Good morning, man. I'm good. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Thank you.
Hot off the press.
It is.
Love it.
Warm. It is.
So he's loading up your presentations. Kind of quick run through, you guys were all sent the evaluation criteria for this presentation. You'll have 20 minutes to present, and then followed by 10 to 15-minute Q&A with the board. I will keep time, I'll let you know at a 5-minute interval, and then 2 minutes, and then when the time is up. And then do a quick introduction while he's loading up your presentations.
I'm Jose Maguido, Ciscovich Architects. You hear about me in a minute.
Ed Napier, Ciscovich Architects.
Renee Alvarez, also with Ciscovich Architects.
I'm Jay Klima with Klima Weeks Civil Engineers.
George Del Castillo, Ciscovich Architects.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Kramer, President of School Planning and Design Management.
Alex Rob.
You had it clear.
Leah Zeiser with Maternity Care.
Here you go again.
Okay. And we got 20 minutes. I'm going to put my timer up here.
That's fine, but I'll keep the time, so this.
All good, you're fine.
When you're ready,
I'm ready.
all right, let's go.
You're ready? Okay, good. Let me put my timer. Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am so excited to be here today, talking about this project. Met our team, we were here a few weeks ago on another project. Very, very grateful for the opportunity to be here. and
Jose, I
another-
think you need to hold the mic again.
Oh, I do?
Yeah,
Okay.
just so they can get you in the back on the.
Oh, okay, can you hear me? Okay, yeah, I hate standing at podiums, sorry. Okay, so I'll just walk around with this thing. A little bit about us, some of you, we may be new to you, so we've been doing schools for a very long time, a lot of schools, but particularly projects just like this one. In fact, 20 classroom prototypes. That's important because this project has a short time frame, and we need to turn around really quick on it. We are extremely grateful of having the opportunity of working with the district and some of its signature schools, Lake Point, Iridical, of course, Lake Mineola, that's now currently under construction. But something is exciting happened to our company. We've merged with CT Shoot. Now we're a much bigger organization. And they, of course, have their own history of success with the district. As you could see, a project very, very much like this one, that we're going to be actually using some of the lessons learned there on this project. We also have a toolbox of a lot of prototypes available, and that's going to be really, really important in this project, as you'll see in a moment. So the idea is to get a running start and really be able to leverage the information we have on the costing of many of these projects. So you're going to see some of this. And as we speak right off the press, we're doing 3 prototypes almost identical to this in Orange County. They're the comprehensive projects, and this team is working on that. So 3 simultaneous classroom additions plus campus remodelings, really live cost data, so we know what's going on with the numbers on that. So that's what leads us to this project. And the scope of work, of course, is 12 classrooms, 240 students. But it's important the learning that's going on in there as well. We got $11.8 million to do it, and it's going to be substantially complete by June 2025. So these are the important things. There's expansion, 21st century, security, and upgrades. Those are the contract, really North Stars, if you will, and you're going to see that throughout the presentation. We walked the site, and it was very, very telling, but some of the interesting things that we learned about that is that there's already some work that's happened to the project which really lowers some of the cost thresholds that we'll have to achieve, like some envelope works happen, floors have been done, chillers are in place. So that's all really, really good stuff that gives us a running start. So we're going to have a strong sense of community, and this I'll talk about in a moment, but traffic and parking are 2 major issues that I'm going to highlight during the presentation. So we're going to follow the scoring criteria, and I'm going to start with the first category, knowledge of the site and local conditions. Now, the site, of course, is right off 44127, major artery in this part of the county. The interesting thing is the demographics and where people are coming from. This is the enrollment map of it, and there's quite an extensive amount of area. So as far as traffic is concerned, this is one of the drivers of it. The other thing that's interesting is, here, there we go. It's surrounded by commercial and industrial uses. That's kind of rare for a school. You usually see schools surrounded by residential development, but this one is a little bit of a unique example. We also have had the pleasure of walking the school, and Renee took some great notes and talked to the principal a little bit and just highlight some of the things on there. Oh, there you go.
So at the school, we did notice that the front of the school is sort of in an odd position. It's facing north, but the main street is, of course, on the west side of the campus. The exteriors seem to be in relatively good condition. We're going to be prioritizing what we do on the interior. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. You know, there's some requests for some restrooms in Building 4 because we want to transform some of the resource rooms into classrooms that can be utilized for primary. The east side of the campus, has the covered play, the PE. The PE pavilion also needs to get a restrooms for that. And in terms of the existing conditions for MEP, well, you can see here in the back, this is the condition on the east side of the campus where we have the pavilion, the portables. The portables will be leaving us once we complete this project. There's a great courtyard, a courtyard that we hope to activate a little bit more with academic. And then there's the pen. What's called the pen in the center here is where children are being held because they have to cross traffic right now. And that's a condition that we really need to address.
Yeah. I'm going to highlight that in a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
detail.
come on.
Yeah, okay. And Jay made sure all of our pipes were in place, so tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Well, good morning. Yeah, we've got some entertainment for sure on the site work aspects of this project. We've listed those over here on the right-hand side. I wanted to just highlight a couple of them. The access and traffic's already been a topic here. We have the parents coming in on the northwest side. That's also where the bulk of the pedestrians are coming in, so that makes for some pretty challenging things that we're going to be looking at in our solutions. The buses do come in on the south side, which has been functioning fine. But the other big thing that we wanted to talk about is there's a lot of elevation change that occurs on this. Even though this view looks real nice, there's various levels as we're going down the hill from the northwest corner to the southeast corner. And so that's going to play a lot into our solutions for building location.
Yeah, we actually show it here. So there's a little bit of a, well, actually not a little, but a lot of a hill there.
A lot of a hill.
A lot of a hill. Okay. And we have just a very minor amount of electrical work that we have. Maybe, Leah, you want to take just a quick highlight of what we have there?
So the existing conditions, obviously from an electrical standpoint, you currently have fluorescent lighting, so we do want to upgrade that to LED along with those district standard LED dimmable lighting controls. Systems, it's not up to your current Lake County School standards in terms of IT, technology, and audio enhancement. So we want to upgrade that so that there's equity across the existing buildings plus the addition. And then in addition, the chillers, there are two chillers, they're air-cooled chillers that are on campus, and we found out that they were replaced recently. So those feed the existing air handler units. Doesn't have room for expansion, so we would probably propose doing a standalone central energy plant for the new addition.
Fantastic. So we've checked the site, we've looked at how the building is working, but this is one of the things that Jay just highlighted a minute ago. Here's where the front door is, so you really don't see it from the street, kind of tucked away. But the parent drop-off traffic is handling like this, and it's a little bit of an overflow into the community. And then the buses are on the south side of the site. But the interesting thing is if you blow up as, a focus of where the commercial and school site come together, this is the thing that Jay was talking about. A lot of the parents are pulling off into this area and creating like a quasi-parent drop-off zone in the shopping center right across the way. And what happens is the kids come to this pen in this location here. And of course, during the drop-off, that's where the parents are trying to get in and out of the building. So as they cross the street, there is basically staff that's required to stop that, so the kids safely cross the street. So it really creates a complex problem because the traffic overflows because it's being stopped to make the kids go through. So that's the pen I'm talking about. As the parents come in, that's their area, they're coming in. The kid, there's this fence area that's in that location there, and as the kids try and walk across the street, you can imagine, the traffic stops, and during the whole morning commute, that's the process there. So that's a safety and a traffic issue that we're going to be addressing. The other thing that's an interesting issue with the site is the parking. There seems to be adequate parking, although when you actually looked at it, there's people parked all over the grass over here, and there's people parked all over the grass over here. And the parking lot is partially full. The reason is because it's so far that it's not in a convenient place. So it looks like you have a parking problem, but you really have a convenience parking problem as opposed to a capacity of parking problem. So that's an interesting finding that we had in there. So as we looked at the site, the takeaways for us were we got a traffic and safety problem and security, and the parking challenge, I wouldn't say it's a capacity issue. So when we look at also the demographics, how does that lay over this? One of the interesting things that's in the press, everyone knows, everybody wants to be here, right? There's people moving in from all over the country. The demographic shift is amazing, and particularly in some of the service industries that are serving the basically retirement community that's there. A lot of families, a lot of apartments are going up. Here's some quotes from the local press indicating that the builders can't build them fast enough. In Lady Lake, the demographics are pretty significant. And the reason that's telling is because after we finish this addition, we're not done. This work is going to continue to come because the campus will continue to experience pressure from more and more students coming in. That's important as you plan the campus. Why I say that? Because the land use is changing. The land use is densifying, and that's one of the studies that Florida UF did. This is the density in 2019 of Lake County, and this is the density that's coming. Look at the saturation of that red. That means that we have to plan this campus in a wise way to make space for those future needs that are coming. When you go inside the building, it's spectacular. You guys got just rock star staff there doing a great job. Every time we looked at the reviews, they were phenomenal. Parents love it. So the key is, how do you keep something great? And one way is the principal. The principal was really encouraging, and he had one great thing that was memorable for us. Asked, if you had to summarize what this school is all about in one word, what would it be? Community. That was a huge driver in this school, and that becomes a North Star for us. So, and because that's what creates these results, these phenomenal results. It's a B-plus school. It's got great faculty. They stay for a while. The parents love it. So that's an important demographic context that's going to shape the approach. So takeaways, explosive growth. It's a great school. We want to keep it great. And it's got a strong community focus with community partners. So as we look at how would we approach this problem, we know, and we've worked with you, that we're collaborators. So I'm going to share with you an approach, but of course, it's without any input from anyone. So keep that in mind, that this is just to show our thought process. So we go back to the scope. We need 12 classrooms, 21st century learning. It's got to be safe, and we got to upgrade the remainder of the campus that's there. As we walk to school, we learn from the principal. Community is very important. We learn we have a traffic problem, and maybe not a parking problem, but a parking proximity problem. So as we looked at the site, this is the site, that's where the portables are. Our first approach is to utilize one of the prototypes we have. Our two-story prototype goes right where staff suggested we take a look at it, which was in this area right behind the cafeteria building. So as we put the building there, it'll require the portables to relocate. And that's the prototype that's already built. And so that's what we're putting. And that prototype solves the expansion problem, but that prototype doesn't have a whole lot of 21st century learning built in, but it has security issues, upgrades, doesn't really address the parking issue that we had here because we put an expansion of the parking lot there where people were parking. And that's the way the plan looks. It's about 16,000 square feet. One of the things of a two-story, it has stairs and an elevator, so that's a little bit of a cost issue that you'll see in a minute. We also said, well, what if we take that same site and put a one-story on there? This is the prototype that we have at Orange County, that we're building 3 of those. And there's the cost estimate, the GMP for that, and that's that contract. And when we put them on there, the building extends further out, but you don't need you don't need an elevator or stair tower, so the building naturally is smaller, about 3,000 square feet smaller. That's important because it drives down the cost. That means you have more money to put elsewhere. So as we looked at it, this was the targets that we had. It doesn't do much for community because the building is outside. One of the concerns that we had is the remoteness of these buildings and how far they are from the rest of the community, dealing with the issue of community building that the principal mentioned. Then we looked at one and saying these portables, to relocate them, it's about $700,000 because they're on a site where the building. So if we put the building where there is no portables, then we save that cost and we happened to put it on top of the play area here. It's a lot less to replace that than replace the portables. So when we looked at that, the solution was the same exact solution, 16,000 square feet, 240 kids in that area. And there we had the parking lot. 5 minutes? Okay. So as we looked at this, we felt that all of them didn't address the issue here on the corner. And one thing that occurred to us is instead of having everything done in one building, why don't we separate them and take what's causing the problem, which is the admin in the wrong place, move the admin over here, and allowing you to then solve the problem of traffic. So what our thought was, we move the admin to this location here, and we move the classrooms where the admin is. What that allows us to do is to put the remaining classrooms that didn't fit in there here, which is 6, and you happen to have a nest of 6 classrooms per grade level. So that would be a grade level, and you'd have a grade level there. And our approach would be to provide a new corner in this location here. So what that does is, once you take the admin and move it here, the front door, that means that the parking could be resolved. And now you have an ample parking lot in an area that's underutilized. But more importantly, you get rid of the problem that's happening here because the parents now have enough space to get into this location. So what happens is we took our prototype, we have a 6-pack, and we have an admin building. This is being built in Dade, this is being built in Manatee County. We put them together, and instead of a classroom edition, you have an admin classroom edition, but you solve much greater urgent problems. You solve every challenge that you had. So what happens is the admin's here, that's the maybe a kindergarten wing there. The media stays where it is, and we take the remaining classrooms and put them here in a 21st century learning environment. That's where the front door is, ample parking. It hits all of your target needs. There's the floor plan, a little enlargement. The wonderful thing is you bring in 21st century learning, but you have nests of learning community. You have a first grade, second, third, fourth. So you maintain the community orientation of the school. That's what it starts looking like. So it looks like the school that's there, as if it was all born together. Use the same roof, the same brick, and there gives you a few shots. But what's important is this. It's what the principal asked for. When asked for one word about community, now the building addresses the community. The pylon addresses the community. You have something to see when you come in. So there it is, just a few views on this. Oh, the other thing is you're going to need expansion. So what this does is basically frees up the whole back of the building to deal with those additions that are coming in the future and additions in the front. So you have 2 options on where to put your additions. There's other views. And I'll go quickly here because I'm running out of time. But we're also not going to forget the rest of the building. So we're going to go in, and we're going to layer in basically the upgrades that you have in here, but we're going to do it in a smart surgical way. And the way that that's going to happen is the following. We're going to look at the building and bring in basically our upgrades to the learning environments. We're going to have the media center upgraded, the music and the dining facilities, and we're also going to introduce the bathrooms that you have. But how do you afford this whole thing? The reason is when you have more need than you have money, you got to figure out a prioritization. Our North Star is expansion, student safety, traffic, parking, and upgrade. So what we've done is we've priced the building, and we've calibrated it on each of the options. And depending on what's important, for example, the surgical renovations is where you have flex. That's where you have some flexibility as to what you could put into the building. So if the parking is not as critical, then the money could go back into the remodeling piece. And the solution that we think solves it most happens to be the one that is the lowest cost as well. So our strategy would be that implement that, and we would have it in a phased way so we could be breaking ground by June of this coming year, 2024, so we could wrap it up by the time you need it in 2025. So all 3 options work the same way. We've done the phasing on them, including the one that has the parking here, because this is such a small building that you then have the time to deal with that. And the last thing, this is how we designed all of the prototypes. It has industrial systems, as you requested in the RFP. But the important thing is that we've priced these buildings. So what it does is you have predictability and cost history to make sure that the numbers are working. So this is the McCree bid on the ones that we're building right now for Orange County Public Schools. Well, it's perfect, because I'm done.
Thank you very much. Board members, questions? It's a lot.
Was the addition that you did in this center, was that a two-story on the option you like? I love the idea of moving administration. So where administration is that a two-story building?
No, it's one story.
One story.
Oh, one-story building, yeah. That's the
It's
whole
an
idea.
existing one-story that would get reworked. Yeah,
The rebuild, he's talking about.
yeah,
The new piece.
Let me just go there real quick.
right. Single story to get the 6 classrooms.
This one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So new administration building
Yes.
and new,
This administration building being built in Manatee County right now. So it's a one-story, then, just like the rest of the campus. So the idea was to make it look like it was all born
Right,
together.
right.
I'm proposing to use the same roof. The admin comes in, you now have a more ample entrance.
and the admin building will accommodate the number of classrooms we need?
It's 6 classrooms, and we've laid them out.
And then the rest,
It goes in the front.
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, so go there. Yeah, so you have 6 classrooms here, and you have 6 classrooms here. That's the new administration building. This is your new drop-off zone in here, and you're coming into a secured entrance in this location. You're now part of, part of the whole school. Here, all the parking for the staff is convenient.
And you're proposing that front to be kindergarten? They have
Proposing it, but we'll work with the school on whatever.
So it has its own playground or
It
whatever?
has its own playground. And you know what, those are the moms that, need to walk the kids in. That's their first experience in school, so it's good to have visitor parking and parent parking right close to it. So there's the 6 classrooms, these are kindergarten, and you could see that you could also continue to grow it in the future.
What's the rationale for having it angled, whereas all the other buildings are?
The rationale to have it angled.
I think I'm more so referring to that kindergarten building there.
Yeah. It's angled so we could fit in the play toy and the area that they have in here to play. I mean, it could be rotated back, but what it does is it creates that whole inviting plaza. So that's the idea. It kind of would. And what we're trying to do is also the kids that are coming from this location here, here's a crosswalk. There is a residential community on the other side. They come in here, and this allows them to come in, so it also greets them. So there's a plaza, if you will, from the north, from the walk-up traffic that's there. We're going to highly discourage parents from parking over there by making sure that we have all the queue that they ever wanted here. But this allows the building to open up, and it widens here so the kindergarten has a place to play, and also it accommodates their toy.
And the bus loop moves where?
The bus loop is up here.
Up at the top?
Comes up here, comes around.
Just
We're
reverse it.
utilizing the parent drop-off and just
Just
converting
reverse-
it into a bus
reverse
loop,
it.
putting a bulb at the end.
And where were the restrooms for PE? I know you spoke about building 4.
That little square.
So are they going to be additions?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
2 opportunities. In this case, it would be next to that, in addition, restrooms with a little canopy, so it'd be right next to where it is. If the building happens to come in the back, they would be incorporated into that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there's
Yeah.
different ways to accommodate.
Since we had 4 different approaches,
Right.
it moves around, but in this one where it comes up here, it'd be a little.
Attached.
You would just build something, though.
We heard bathrooms are important.
Priority.
So, we're super excited about it. So you could see here, that's the one prototype, so this is 5,300 square feet, and this is 5,500, whereas the 2-story was 16,000 square feet. So you're almost saving 6,000 square feet by going to 1-story, smaller buildings. And the key is that since they're prototypes, we could turn them around very, very fast. So we site adapt them, and between 120, 150 days, and you need to be, in order to break ground by June, we need to be running very, very fast on here, which is why a prototype is the best way to go.
Any questions, Mr. Brandenburg?
Yeah, so I've got a couple. So I'd like to focus on this one then, because it seems like this is your most cost-effective and innovative option. With this, I think it's option 4.
Yes.
Is there any thought or concern about moving admin and kindergarten so close to the existing lumberyard on the south? I mean, that's a big industrial park on the back. Just trying to figure out that noise level and everything else that goes with the almost unintended eyesore of putting admin facing that side.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that admin does is it kind of hinges back.
Right.
But one thing that it's hard to tell on this, and Jay talked about it, is that you're building on a hill.
Right.
So this is 10 feet below. So what happens to the noise is the noise goes at an angle,
Yeah.
so it'll just go right over this building. That's what we anticipate.
Okay.
So admin, there is, we kind of skewed it a little bit, more responding to the community need.
Yeah.
It invites the parents in, because back here, the school is basically blind to the community. You just don't know.
Well, it gives you more of a front of the school and seeing it coming up from Rolling Acres Road. I
Yeah,
get that. Where would you move admin in the short term if you're taking over their space to build classrooms? Where do they relocate? Where do the
They
students
stay.
enter?
They don't relocate, they stay here. See, they stay here.
Okay.
While we are building this, because we don't need to relocate the portables.
Okay.
Portables are there, you got
Makes
all your
sense.
need there. So everybody's here. What we need to do immediately is build the site work, because that's what provides us the site for the new admin kindergarten building.
Okay.
So they stay, and then you get up, a more secure building up here. And look at this queue.
Yeah.
We
The
got
queue is
4,000
great. I think it
cars,
still
4,000 feet.
creates some parking challenges still. It's certainly a much better lot, and I know you're dealing with some challenges to fit it all on there, but if you've got people walking all the way up to then the north side of campus, instead of it being split up before into a couple smaller, less effective, I'll give you parking lots.
So to that point, this up here could definitely be reutilized for what they're doing it right now. With
Yeah.
the parking and grass, that
Right.
could easily be paved.
Then if you got buses there too, coming all the way through, it gets busy. It's still a much better option, I'm with you. The site's got challenges.
Yeah, and the thought there is we got a lot less, I mean, yes, there are buses, but there are a
Yeah.
lot less buses than there are cars.
Right.
So you're talking about both the students and the rest of anybody that might be parking up there would
Yeah.
have a lot less to contend with in terms of dealing with that.
Agreed.
There's only 8 buses.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if you can tell, but this is hinged this way.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I went to the school, I got a pretty good area to say. So that helps. So then, do you think the plan is to then, once we build this capacity, I know we're eventually going to need the portables, probably, do we leave them there in the short term, and you build all this new capacity, then we just leave empty portables on the back part of campus, or what are your thoughts there from
My thinking is.
engineering side of
You
things?
have enough land, and you basically accommodated the operation of the school around them.
Okay,
That's $700,000, you don't have to, you don't have to move that, you don't
right.
have to
Yeah,
repurpose.
we're still putting 12 million into it to leave portables in the back half of it, so I mean, you've got that challenge too. Okay.
And, as I said in the demographic, I think they will come.
I agree. Yeah, North Lake County is certainly growing, and it's not stopping anytime soon. What else did I have? Is it, in this plan, is there any restrooms added to Building 4, or do you not need it because you're moving everything on the other part?
Yes, we had it,
Yeah, you still would, because it'll give you more flexibility
Right.
anyways.
And how are you going to add those into an existing building? Just build onto the exterior of it?
No,
or-
actually, we have, if you
we
can
have the
find
plan.
that.
We actually laid it out.
Yeah, if we find it. It's like going through history.
Towards the end for us.
It's a time machine.
Yeah.
Hang on, we're close. Okay,
Oops.
easy now. So what we found is that there's already water located in these two areas right here.
Okay.
And the idea is this is just a shared storage / teacher planning. In this case, the same thing. So what we did as well, we can add a staff restroom here and a student restroom. This used to be a skills, but it can be now transformed into a primary. And then both of these now get that. This one we didn't try, it's a little small, it has a mechanical room associated. So, and there's already a restroom here and storage here, so we gave this one a little bit of storage. So now they all function however the principal needs them to function, either way. So they're built in, and they're
Sure.
not large.
Makes sense.
Large projects, since the water's already there and the drains are basically nearby as well.
You guys speak into the microphone, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then I only have a
They're
couple
close
more.
by.
I know you guys did a lot in a short amount of time. What about the courtyard activation? What are some of your thoughts there? What do you want to do in that middle space?
It's a beautiful courtyard. Yeah, it's a beautiful courtyard that, right now, it's very pleasant. It's very green. The trees and the shade are very comforting there. Our idea is that with the 21st century sort of initiatives that we all have learned about, activating that and making that at least one setup for a classroom, outdoor classroom setup, where you bring some infrastructure to it. There may be the ability to have some power out there, but certainly to set that up in a way that teachers can come and the students and use it in a place to sit. Right now, you can't sit in it.
Well, that's what this picture is here. It's hard to tell, but this is the STEM lab that we have at Aurelia Cole and the K-8. And this media center, that's located in here.
Yep.
So this provides a marvelous opportunity for all of this to flow out and basically have exterior learning generated from your tech hub. And we think this could be just and it's located perfectly right at the heart of school, right in the middle. So, my thought was put up some roll-up doors and some of those and really create that so every learning community has access to technology, and you highlight it in the middle of the school.
And incorporate some shade, structures.
Here you go.
And possibly incorporate some shade structures. Depending on the budget allowance, but certainly create something in the ground plane that allows that to happen. You need to give them the space to actually do it.
Makes sense. All good. And my last one is really for Greg on the bus side of things. So when the buses are leaving currently, do they all make a right and head north towards 441? Do some make a left and go down South Rolling Acres and go up the backside? How do they leave? Because I just think if we're moving it closer to the shopping center, how all those people already make U-turns there to get in and out. I don't know if you had buses in there, if that makes it, I don't know if. how
Right,
that's
so
gonna work.
we try to accommodate the buses more than we do the parent traffic. Right now, the biggest problem that I would see with moving and trading these things would be all our parents make a right turn when they move out of the car line, right? And so if we continue that process, which is the easiest for Lady Lake to manage traffic, everybody makes that right turn. Then if we've got buses that are trying to pull out and go a different route, then we obviously have a problem, right? We're running into a conflict there. Again, we only have 6, 8 buses or whatever, plus a couple of, daycare buses and stuff that come through. There's not an insurmountable problem, but it is something to identify. And then the other thing that's there too is that with those walkers that are coming up, again, they're still going to be coming from the same direction. I mean, we call them walkers, but they're remote parkers, right? And they're still going to be coming from the same direction, and now instead of crossing the car line, they're crossing the bus line, which is, still a thing, but albeit less people to interfere with.
Agreed, thank you.
Excuse me, this is again, let me ask one real quick. With the expansion of the stacking, do you think you can move parents away from remote parking, that they would go ahead and get in the line?
That would be the ideal situation. And again, they're not fighting the fact that that it's space. They're fighting standing in a line, right? They perceive that it is quicker for them to park and walk their kids up there than it is for them to stay in the line and go through the process. So if they did choose to, they're not like walking their kids to class. They're walking them to the door and dropping them off. Right.
Yeah, we're going to propose a little cafe up here for the parents.
Can I ask, the additional, that kindergarten, I know it's not kindergarten, but I know we've referred to it a couple times, those doors are facing the interior of the school, correct? I know the segment. Okay.
Yes.
But they're not, they would be facing the exterior.
They have windows to the outside, but they're all facing on the inside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and in the picture you have depicted right there, there's a beautiful marquee. The principal mentioned signage. Is that included as well?
That's it?
Yeah.
So he'll have
Nice.
Yeah.
additional signage?
Yes, we have signage here addressing the community, and then this is basically community announcements, so it'll be an electrified marquee sign.
In the building that you're building, the 6th classroom building?
Yes.
Are you creating any space, because as you said, it may grow?
Yes.
Are you creating any space for additional administrative offices? Because now you're moving the administrative office, the bulk of your campus, unless, and I know Mr. Dudley's very creative, but unless you are creating some spaces, he's kind of got all of his administrative staff in the corner up at the front of the school.
Right, so what we're proposing here is that the entire administrative suite would move over to this whole area, right? So there would be an opportunity to put teacher planning, a mini admin suite, that's all a function of programming, once we program it. Because frankly, the classrooms that are going back are smaller than the space that you have. So you could easily accommodate, like a teacher lounge area or a large planning room for admin, so you could disperse it and have it decentralized. But,
Throughout the campus, there's quite a bit of storage. Throughout the campus, there's quite a bit of storage space that can be converted in certain areas to sort of almost have deans for the buildings and control like that. And that's something we'd be speaking with the principal to learn how he'd like to distribute that. So there certainly are.
So there's a
opportunities.
possibility.
yeah,
Absolutely.
there's a lot of work
Yeah,
yet to be done,
yeah.
no question about it, yeah.
We would learn about that early.
Okay.
Going to show the plan.
Any other questions?
Concludes the 15 minutes.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you so much, appreciate inviting us back, thank you.
My monitor is not working. Do you think they might?
Yeah, mine's not on either.
Is it not on during the presentation?
A couple of them are, mine and Stephanie's aren't on. We gotta,
Mine's red. Maybe mine's just not on. I didn't think we had to turn. See if it's on it.
It's at the top.
You could have that one. Okay.
Yes.
not too worried.
Oh, maybe the power was just off for me. Are you done with that? Just kidding. Like, is there some left?
It's cold, you can have it, a little bit left.
I'm totally kidding.
I don't know what's more.
It just says no signal like yours. Did they hear that it was off? No? They're not paying attention.
Doesn't matter to me, I don't care.
Doesn't matter to me either, except I can't see.
Oh, come on.
She's back.
Look how she leaves.
Yeah, she actually walks out.
Yeah.
You gotta change your outfits, Leah. Just sport coats. There you go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Didn't help.
So we're gonna, while he's loading up, we're gonna do a quick introduction, right? I ask you to speak into the microphone, because this is live. And
He's
we
the same,
need to hear
too.
your voices.
We got
And
duplicates.
then when we do that, I'll give you 20 minutes to talk about your presentation. We've all been sent the criteria. And then after the 20 minutes, I'll let you know that at the 5-minute mark and then the 2-minute mark. And then when time is up, and then we'll open it up for about 10 to 15-minute Q&A with the board. Okay?
All right.
Let's do the introduction. It's not part of your time, so.
Okay. I'm Dave Torbert, partner with Schenkel Schultz.
Patrick Rao, project manager, Schenkel Schultz.
Lindia Mesidor, designer with Schenkel Schultz.
Jim Richards, PES Design Group, food service consultant.
Louis Bedoya, BBM Structural Engineers.
Good morning, I'm Jay Klima with Klima Weeks Civil Engineers.
Leah Zeisler with Return Engineering, MEP engineer.
Perfect.
Okay, again.
Into the
Speak
mic.
into the microphone.
And then you can take one of those too and walk around if you want, one of those
Yeah,
handhelds.
feel like walking
We'll
around.
just make sure we step up to the mic from now on.
Ready?
Yes.
All right.
Well, good morning. We're very excited to be here. I'm going to first apologize for my voice, which is a little bit on the struggle bus this morning, but nonetheless, we are very, very excited to be here today to talk to you about this wonderful project at the Villages Elementary School. How do I get, there we go. So everyone's familiar with the phrase, "It takes a village to raise a child." We thought that that saying was very appropriate for this school and for this campus, because as we learned more about what's going on at the Villages Elementary School, we learned that it's not just a village school in name, it's actually a village school in practice. There's a tremendous amount of community involvement, engagement, and we think that's very important. So let's talk about your village a little bit in terms of the local area demographics. So, it's no surprise to, I'm sure any of you all, that Lake County is one of the fastest growing counties in the state. But that's, the town of Lady Lake is not immune to that either. Over 2,500 homes that have been added in the last 3 years. So a very robust, growing community that needs some additional capacity at their school.
So, being at the Villages Elementary School, we got a sense that there's there's pride in community and care and in student achievement. And with that, you can see that they use a series and a variety of approaches to education, service, and teamwork so that the kids can have a well-rounded education. And that also carries out in working hand in hand in the community, making sure that the kids have a safe environment and so that they can reach their highest potential. And so we at Schenkel Schultz we have a similar approach to where we like to engage with our beneficiaries, with the school, the Village Elementary School, to make sure that we talk to them, listen to them, so that the project can reach the best goals necessary to have successful results.
So as Lydia just kind of alluded to, we believe that together, working with you, we can help the school achieve the highest potential. So I want to talk a little bit about our village as statewide leaders in elementary school design. So we already introduced the team. I think the significance of the three of us, Patrick, Lindy, and myself, we represent a lot of experience working with Lake County schools specifically, and a lot of experience with elementary schools and active existing campus projects. You can see our team of consultants, who also introduced, many of whom are here today with us as well. What that experience means or represents is almost 50 million square feet of K through 12 projects, including examples like the new charter schools in the villages that are just north of here. Almost 300 new elementary school projects that this team has conducted. And more importantly, more specifically to this project, almost 350 projects on active campuses that are improvement projects that includes additions and renovations to a school. Those kind of projects are unique. They have unique requirements and conditions that have to be met when you're working on an existing campus. So, I want to talk a little bit about cost control and value engineering. We always like to start with the end in mind. And what do I mean by that? Well, all of that experience that I just outlined to you means that we have a lot of background and a lot of cost data. And the importance of that, as you can see from this, is that here's 3 examples of elementary school projects that we've recently done. 2 of which, the one on the left and the right, including your newest elementary school at Fruitland Park, have just bid in November of 2023, this past month. That's important because that's fresh, very recent, very relevant cost data. This is not something from a couple years ago. It is dollars in today's construction market. What that allows us to do is to start with evaluating your budget. We know that you've got a little over $11.8 million in your budget. We know you want to add 12 classrooms. That's going to be about 13,000 square feet. Based on that recent cost data, we would expect that to be just over $4.2 million. Means you've got over $7.6 million to address the other kinds of scope items that you've identified, including renewal of the cafeteria, admin and some of the classroom buildings, the outdoor PE and playground equipment, and the site improvements like improving the stacking on the campus. So overall, we think this is a very comfortable budget to achieve all of those objectives. Part of cost control is looking at value engineering items, and here's some examples of that. You can go with a very traditional brick and block construction that you see on the right-hand side. It's a very durable, long-lasting approach, but it's also one of the more expensive ones. You could go in the middle with a brick inlay, casting the bricks into the tilt wall panel to achieve the same look, but to be a little more cost-effective. Or if you wanted to go the most economical in the marketplace, it'd be just a painted tilt wall. The point of this is that in working with you through this project, we'll work through these kinds of choices on not just the exterior, but a whole series of materials and systems so that we can make the right decision with you as to what the right choices along the line are to make the most economical, make the most long-term sense for you. Part of cost control is not just the first-time cost, in our opinion. It's also giving you a building that is cost-efficient to operate. So that means energy efficiency strategies, things like developing a tight building envelope so that the building is very energy efficient. choosing high-performance mechanical equipment, again, enhance that efficiency and make it an inexpensive building, as inexpensive as possible to actually run. And then even potentially maybe looking at the future, reinforcing the roof structure so that it could accept one day in the future photovoltaic panels when those become maybe more economical, are all strategies that we believe are important to be looking at as we develop solutions for you on this campus. In this case, we also think a significant choice is a decision between a single-story building or a two-story building. Over the years, we've been asked to study this, which one's more cost-effective. We've studied it many, many times, and the result is always the same, that the single-story building is always the more economical choice. It's faster to build, so when you save time, you save money. You don't have to build things like elevators and stairs, so you save money from that perspective. And, there are some trade-offs. You have some more roof and you have some more foundations. But in the end of the day, the analysis that we've done is it's always come out that a one-story option is going to be more economical. And in this case, the existing campus is all one story, so it makes some sense to go that route as well. So we want to shift now and talk really specifically about your project. We're going to start with talking about the site.
So the site has ample space for what we are trying to accomplish in the new building addition. We've located water main, gravity sewer, and storm piping. There's no major flooding issues or other utility issues that are stringent to the project. So, but some of the issues for growth and just the efficiency of the overall campus, so from what we were hearing while at the site visit was that they need more restrooms, and more restrooms. They want to approve the curb appeal of the building. So, the approach to the building and the front entrance of the building, they really want that to stand out. And so they also wanted to hit on enhancements to the campus and also on the parking stacking, because traffic backs up into the street and parents have to walk from different locations to drop their schools off. So pick up and drop off is an issue for them.
So next up, we're going to talk about our approach to this project and how we're going to address some of the concerns that we've been talking about leading up to the presentation. Our overall approach is to really think about these kind of different priorities for the project. So based on our experience, these are kind of the key things that we think are really important to consider as we're working through the design of this project. That goes with engaging the community, like Linda talked about, really doing our due diligence and really understanding all of the existing infrastructure in the campus, coordinating all the municipalities, and then obviously phasing in a way that really minimizes disruption and safety to the students so that it's the safest option for the phasing of their overall site. One of the things that Lindy mentioned, one of the biggest problems that we had heard out there was the plumbing within the existing campus. And so our approach to that is to do a renovation that would actually create dedicated restrooms inside the primary and intermediate classroom. So students aren't having to leave the classroom to go out, and it'd be an option like this that would incorporate a vestibule and dedicated bathrooms that are inside the classroom building itself. We also know that the kitchen multipurpose area is an important part of the project as well. We think that based off of our overview, this may even just be a refresh within the multipurpose with new finishes, new ceilings, acoustics, and maybe some new furniture within that space to really kind of uplift it and help kind of give it just a refresh in that space. We also know that administration is going to be an important part of the project as well, so looking at creating a safe and secure lobby so the receptionist is protected, which is something really important we want to think about. And again, maybe just updating LED lighting, furniture, and furnishings within that space would be a good upgrade as well. Within the classroom space, we think there's opportunities for technology upgrades, for more modern technology areas. Things like furniture upgrades, teaching walls, marker boards, new paint, new finishes, and LED lighting upgrades also would be an important part as well. So just really upgrading this to be more of a modern 21st century classroom space is part of the objective on this product as well. Taking a look at the overall site, we're proposing to have the new classroom building right here with the red block. So the idea is that that'd be a one-story classroom addition just to the right of the existing cafeteria space. That will create kind of two designated learning courtyard areas that really come back to infuse some of the things that we also saw during the walkthrough, is that the school really does embrace outdoor learning, and a great opportunity for outdoor spaces is located right there. We're also looking at doing a new covered play just north of the existing, or just north of the new building. So that'll do a couple of things. It'll have an opportunity for outdoor spaces for PE, but also it'll function as a new kind of corral space for parent drop-off in the morning. We know that as of right now, there is kind of this corralled condition where students are being held and then kind of escorted across roads to get back onto the property during pick-up and drop-off. And this is one idea that has kind of a planned area that's covered to help with all of that. The other big part of the project that we know is going to be looking at the circulation from the traffic standpoint. So what we're proposing to do here is a couple of things with the roads. We want to modify the existing location of the bus loop. So by kind of turning that off a little bit toward the south, it's going to give us an opportunity to extend the parent drop-off even further. So you're going to get more parking capacity. You're also going to extend the stacking that occurs in that magenta line all the way through the area here. And then even extending on the north, this parking lot is being extended over to the east as well. So that'll give you even more capacity, even more parking right along the front where the administration is, to make sure that you're accommodating the best use of space for the parents and for the drop-off. We also did a second option. So we took a look at, knowing that we had, based off of our walkthrough, that the desired location was to kind of replace the portables with the classroom. But we thought, one thing to consider is by locating the classroom on the north side over here, we could actually leave those portables entirely alone. And so either you leave them alone and use them as a swing space for when students are being impacted during the renovation for the classroom buildings, or you could even just leave the infrastructure in place so that 5-10 years down the road, if you happen to need for more portables, you already have a pad and a location that's already set up for them to be using those spaces as well. This takes a look at the overall exterior design. Again, you've got the front of the school located here. The administration is located here with the two classroom buildings on each side. And we're going to locate the new one-story classroom building located in this area. And then just north of that, the new covered pavilion, which will again serve as that kind of corral area for parent pickup drop-off to really create a nice edge for the overall campus. This shows from the bottom edge looking at that pavilion space, and the idea is that this will serve as a parent drop-off area to help locate students during rainy weather, but also it has the extra benefit of becoming an outdoor lab or a learning pavilion space for the students. So now you can have an area that has active outdoor learning spaces like little learning gardens, photovoltaic canopies, rain cisterns, kind of vegetable gardens, things that we think that the school would actually really take advantage of from a learning perspective to really help integrate and really create nice 21st century learning within the campus.
So I'm going to come back to where we started. It takes a village to raise a child, and like I said before, we really believe that together we can work with you to really help this campus achieve its highest potential. We'd love the opportunity to work with you on that, and at this time, we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
6 minutes to spare.
That's efficiency for you.
Added points.
Thank you. Questions? Good. Mr. Dodd? You good? Ms. Luke?
I think so. I feel like that was quick. I'm thinking.
I've got a couple. You mentioned wall types earlier on the value engineering. The existing campus, is that a brick and block, I assume, or a brick inlay?
If I'm not mistaken, that particular
Brick and
prototype
block,
was
yeah.
brick and block, brick and block infill on a metal building, yeah.
And you would still potentially propose going to like a tilt wall for one building in the middle of campus and just not matching the overall feel of the rest? Or?
Well, that's the part of what I was trying to describe on the
Right.
different wall types is, you can do the brick and block and be a match, but you have other options. You could do that middle option, which
Yeah.
is tilt wall with the brick inlay, and achieve the same look.
Yep.
But do it in a little bit more economical fashion. So those are all things that we'd work with you, work with Mr. Parker and the construction management team that you choose to kind of work through and figure out what the best option is.
Yep, cool, agreed on that. I did like how you shifted the bus loop and added more parking back there. I know we've got some concerns with students kind of walking off campus, the back part of the shopping center. Do you think that extra queuing line will help disincentivize parents from doing that, or you think they're still going to see a a long line and say the heck with it, we're still going to keep trying to do what we're doing.
You know, parents are parents.
Yeah.
They don't always follow the rules. I think, I do think it will help, but I don't feel confident
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
guaranteeing you that they will quit doing that. I think if you make it more convenient, if you provide the corral area that Patrick was referring to, it will help disincentivize that. I'm hesitant to say it's going to eliminate it.
Sure. And then in the, if you can go to your two options real quick, of actually where the building is placed. I liked that one. Was that the one that matches then the inlay of like the learning pavilion and everything else with
Yes.
that rendering?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So in that one, you're removing the portables altogether,
Right.
and then putting the covered play closer to the north side. I assume that covered play would have restrooms in it?
Yes. Yeah,
And
there's a
then-
bathroom. It's actually, you can tell in the renderings a little bit, but this area here would have a little small building with bathrooms and storage and a small office for PE as well.
Okay,
Yeah, you see.
yeah.
Kind of see that right there.
Perfect. And then if we were to go with that option, and let's say down the road we need to do this again, do you have any idea where you'd want to place the addition 2.0 then, based on that site? Does that kind of limit where we can expand? Would that single story be built in a way that we could potentially go vertical in the future? Or kind of what are the thoughts there? Because I agree, this area is going to keep growing, and just want to be sensible with where we put all this stuff, so we don't.
I think there's two or three different options, and they're all going to have pros and cons,
Sure.
right? I think, you could design the building so that it could just naturally extend this way.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Reasonable.
one option.
Yeah.
You could, shift some of this stuff over and leave room for another building over here.
Yeah.
Or maybe we relocate where that covered play is somewhat and plan for a new building in that spot, a new separate building in that spot. So
Okay.
there's pros and cons to each one of those.
Sure.
But I think that, again, as we get into the project and start master planning it with you all, and try to arrive at, I presume at some point you do have a maximum size
Sure.
you would want to go past.
Yeah.
So I think we would just need to work with you to establish what that is and then plan for that.
I do like the idea of completely getting rid of the portables, even in the short term. I mean, I'd hate to put 12 million to do a campus and still leave the portables as a swing space or whatever else.
Yeah.
But it's a good design, thank you.
I do have
Thank
a
you.
question, Mr. Chairman, if you mind.
Certainly.
What were the size of your classroom? Because in the beginning, you said 13,000 square foot for 12 classrooms, correct? What size are your classrooms?
We base that off the sizes that we're doing that we're currently just finished doing for you at Fruitland Park, so they're 800 square foot classrooms.
And you're not using a prototype?
No, sir.
One of the things that the principal talked about was increasing signage. I'm sure you're doing it, but could I just hear about it?
Sorry, increasing what?
Signage.
Signage by the road.
Oh, well, on the roads, you said?
Yeah.
Well,
signage for-
are you including a marquee?
Actually, go to the first rendering. So part of what we're proposing to do is to help kind of give a new front door for the school as well.
I see it.
So it's a little hard to see, but here on the far right-hand side,
Okay.
actually very similar to Beverly Shores, kind of creating
Okay.
just a very economical canopy that gives the opportunity for more signage for the school to kind of, give it a little more curb appeal along the front is also what we're proposing on this option as well.
Now, and also on this one, if I can add, do you plan on matching the roof on the new building, or is it gonna, it just looks different in
Yeah,
that rendering?
It just looks a little different because of the material, but we
Sure.
could recommend the same standing seam, style roof, yes.
And I want to go back to Bill's question a little bit. Our intention is not to necessarily use a prototype, but we do have many classroom addition prototypes that we could use as a basis to start this with. So it's a possibility, certainly.
I do want to say, the principal did mention that he wants the new addition to be seamless on the campus. So that's one of the things we would like to go for, too.
Good.
Anything further? Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you, guys.
appreciate you
Appreciate it. Thank
taking the time to come.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Well, during the presentation. Dang it.
Is everyone good on a break or whatever? Everybody good?
I'm okay.
Bill, you good?
Yeah, yes.
That's how I'm like, why do you give it to that?
Just save them.
He forgot it.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Morning.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
While he's loading up your presentations, you're given 20 minutes to do the presentations. You were sent the evaluation criteria. When you speak, please speak into the microphone. If you feel like you need to walk around, you can grab one of those and hold it in your hand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because this is live and we need to hear it.
Okay.
And I'm not doing the right. I'm not doing my job.
That's how you do it.
Yes, that's how you do it.
Hold it like that.
Yeah. You got it? Go ahead and do a quick introduction of the team, and then I'll start the clock. I'll let you know at a 5-minute mark, and then the 2-minute mark, and then we'll start the 10 to 15-minute Q&A after that. Go ahead.
Okay.
So much.
Testing.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Ruffin Rhodes. I'm president of Rhodes and Brito Architects.
Hello, good morning. I'm Byron Lestraps. I'm principal and architect at Rhodes and Brito Architects.
Good morning. My name is Angelique Taburcia, and I'm a project architect with Rhodes and Brito Architects.
Leah Zeiser with Matern Engineering, we're the MEP engineer.
I'm sure you've seen her.
Once or twice, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you just skipped the mechanical part.
Can we?
Yeah.
Ready?
All right, you gonna start the clock now?
Well, good morning again. First of all, I'd like to extend my gratitude for being able to come before you and speak about Villages Elementary of Lady Lake. We're excited. We've got some great ideas to show you. This has been a project that fits perfectly within the types of projects that we do. But before we begin, I guess I should do that. I'd like to give you a brief description of Rhodes and Brito. I'm not sure how much you know about us, so I'm going to kind of run through a little bit our background and then talk to you about some of our architectural team members who you probably you've just met and introduced. First of all, Rhodes and Brito has been in business for 30 years. We have 50 people in our office, so we've got 2 offices, one in downtown Orlando, one on the Cape. And we have done a multitude of market sectors. K-12 happens to be one of the most robust market sectors that we have. Max Brito and I started the firm in 1996, and Byron joined our firm shortly thereafter and to create the K-12 market. We began doing K-12 in the beginning, and Byron has built that portfolio of work from $0 construction dollars to over $600 million. We're very happy and proud of our credibility in the market sector of K-12. In addition, we have Angelique Taburcia, we call Angie, actually. So she is a project architect, very sharp, very smart, creative architect who, and Byron and her work in tandem. They almost read each other's minds.
We do.
So they're a great team. In addition to Kelly, Chris, Adrian, and Nadir, this brings you a formidable team for this project and this task. I believe with all sincerity that this is a solid team that will be great for this project, and and know that I will give them all the resources they need to be successful. So, in addition, we have our sub-consultants, which you just met Lee at Matern. We have an excellent team of consultants, engineering consultants. They're great, and they have experience working with us, and some of them have experience working in Lake County. So when we begin a design project, or particularly a K-12 project, we kind of want to look at the deficiencies that Byron's going to talk to you about. What are the things we need to fix? What are the things we need to repair? and make right on this school. But the other thing we try to bring in is, what is the story of the school? What makes it unique? What makes it purposeful? So, and we define that story as a unique narrative of a school's culture, values, purpose, heritage, and who they are. And so we've identified some of the things that really make this unique. We believe that this story codifies the school's connection to their community. It provides a direction and vision for students, staff, community constituents, and it establishes a solid foundation for the learning process. These things help us as architects to make sure that we provide a total design. It's not just fixing the deficiencies, but celebrating the culture and the values of that school. So we're quite pleased when we looked at the website and understand what the school's mission was. We identified some of the key phrases that makes this a very unique and purposeful school in terms of how it reaches out to the community. I love the school motto, "Together we can." To me, it speaks about unity. And that's something we need to embrace as the architects in design to make sure that we provide you, as I say, a total design. So these are ways that we believe as architects we can modernize the school and help them to relive the values and to fix the deficiencies in the school. Create flexible learning spaces, 21st century collaborative areas, create innovative technology, provide outdoor classrooms and learning environments, and art and aesthetics to actually reinforce those values that are present in that school. This is the agenda that you've asked us to speak on. We're going to speak on everything here regarding that, so I'd like to open it up for Byron.
Thank you. Good morning again. First of all, I want to talk to you about a knowledge of our site and the local conditions. Here, we got into history here. As you can see, I'm sure in 1995 or 98, when this land was procured to build a new school, it was probably not what it looks like now. It was this open field with some commercial, industrial, truss manufacturers on the south of the site. And, things were a lot different than what they are now. But now as we go today, you can see there's a lot of commercial and retail establishments in this area along with some residential and all of this area. With the commercial retail, probably you have some issues, just whether it's crime or a lot of traffic in this area, shoplifting, things like that is something that we want to be concerned about and when we're working with this school campus. Just getting to understand the existing site, it's built on roughly just under 20 acres, plot of land. It was originally built for about over 700 permanent student stations. Currently, you have 8 portables there, over 100,000 square feet of existing buildings. There seems to be adequate numbers in parking. However, this is something that we do want to look into, the parking, where it's located. Also, the queuing, there's been issues about that. Is there enough on-site queuing without backing up on Rolling Acres Road? So those are the things we would look into. Ruffin, you want to continue?
Yep. So you've asked us to speak about the local area demographics. This campus is located in the town of Lady Lakes. Town of Lady Lakes has a population of about 16,000. Here's an interesting fact, 50% of the population is over 65. So that kind of tells me a little bit about the constituents in this community, mostly probably retired. And this is located in District 2. So it's a well-established school. It seems that there's a sizable workforce, and most of it is doing retail and healthcare and social services. Let's talk about your school, Villages Elementary of Lady Lake. It started in 1999, has a current enrollment of 750, thereabouts, has a VPK program, which is a Title I, and an extended learning center, and community support. What I really love about this is the Masonic Lodge has adopted this school for donations, which is important when you look at the economic disadvantage. It's about 60% are economically disadvantaged, so it really helps to have a community support on this school. It's a very diverse school, and thus I think that's where the unity comes from, and we can appreciate that. So, all right, Byron.
Okay. Now we're going to get into the real business here. One of the things, before we started our project and approach and the methodology here, I want to give you some examples of projects that we've worked with similar to what you're doing. Here's a project in Gainesville that we completed about 2 years ago. And the reason why I'm bringing it up, there's 3 things that are similar. It was built on an occupied campus. We needed to make additional permanent student stations, and finally, it was the renovation of existing buildings. What happened was the original buildings in 1960 were all demolished, and then we kept the buildings that were built in the 1990s. Here, what we did, being an occupied campus, we tried to build this as fast as we can. This construction lasted about 12 to 13 months, which was very beneficial to the school, and as it was occupied. So we built a 45,000 square foot classroom addition. Also, we renovated the existing buildings. We looked at the security, the transportation, circulation among the site, and all of that worked really well with the school. Here are some improvements we did. Up to the left is our new entry, our lobby. This used to be an open-air breezeway. We enclosed that to make a new entry. On the right is the new parent pickup and front entry into the site. We wanted to address it using the similar architecture that is there. The cafeteria, which was existing, by doing finishes, lighting, new ceiling, flooring. A lot of that, we gave it a new, fresh image. Other things is you can see the courtyard that we built in our new building. This was during almost the end of construction. A lot of it is grown in and really settled in and filled out. The lower left is the media center that we improved with lighting, finishes, and FF&E to make it really a nicer space. So it's a good example of what we're doing. Now we're going to talk about your school. One of the things we like to do is start by listening to our stakeholders, owners, and users into the building. This is important to understand everybody's agenda here and what are the goals that we want to do and all our expectations that we want to have on this project. We'd like to eliminate preconceived ideas and so that we understand exactly where we need to go. One of our first steps is we look into an investigation. What are some of the issues you have? What are some of the program deficiencies you have in your site? Part of it is understanding an inventory of spaces, all the special programs you may have, stakeholder input again, and also their code issues. Life safety, being a building that's built before the 2000, chances are your code is not really going to be that major of an issue. Their building or their site deficiencies, as we talked about, ADA, the mechanical systems, the parking, circulation, all of those things we want to look at and see how we can address on this campus. Security, building envelope, all of these things we will look into to make sure they're up to par. Now, this is the site I showed you this slide over to kind of give you an overview of our site, but now I'm going to dive into some of our improvements that we would do on this site. But before we do that, one of the things we think about and talk about is liabilities and assets. Okay, what are some of the concerns you guys have on this existing campus? So we talked about traffic backup. I think the walkthrough, Principal Dudley, you had mentioned some of those issues that you had there. Other things was when we visited, we parked on the grass, on an incline. There was not a lack of visitor, but also staff parking was done in the grass. So maybe that tells us something that where we have adequate parking, maybe it's not located in the right places. So there's a way that we can address that. We will. There's portables, therefore tells us we need to provide permanent student stations. Also, lack of restrooms was a concern that we had, and seeing how we can integrate that into the existing buildings throughout the campus. Now, some of the assets that we have is, well, it has a great school character. The condition of the 2,000 buildings are really well, and a lot of improvements was made with the finishes recently, so that's going to be very friendly to help maintaining our budget on this whole project right now. So, and also campus organization and wayfinding, it's very simply laid out, and I think that is not going to be an issue on this project. Now that knowing that we need to build and construct a new building, approximately 12 classrooms is the criteria that we're looking at. We need to look and take several things in consideration. What is the best building placement? We want to make sure that we maintain the campus flow and function. And also, just how does it integrate in existing programs? In other words, what we build, we want it to be something that blends very well with the function of the school. And we want to have a creative, unified campus, so that the new addition is not an eyesore or something that stands out completely. And also, we want to maintain or improve campus security that is there. Now, if you look at the site, you can see how it's organized. There's roughly 4 classrooms that we have, classroom buildings, and then there's the admin, media, and then there's the cafeteria. Well, to the east of the site would be the best location that we could have for the new addition. I think that's something that I'm sure all the architects have come and said this is a possible location. It provides us contractor access really into the school. But one of the things we want to do is ensure that this is something that we can build while the school is being occupied. Here's a summary of our whole site of some of the improvements that we want to do, and I'll go into break some of these down for you. As we blow up into the site, we want to look into some of the site issues that we have. On the lower bottom of the screen, we looked at maybe we can provide additional staff parking in this area. This is something that we found that they were parking on the grass already. That's something that can work into the bus loop. Other things we wanted to look at is rework our existing parking lot by changing the lanes out a little bit, just adding, making some rounded, easier curves and cornering, widening the lanes so that this parking lot can be more maneuverable, and also we can have additional stacking on site for the campus and for the parents during the pickup. And also we provided visitor parking by relocating some of the existing parking that you have onto the north side, which I think we can easily accommodate that. So those are some improvements we're doing there. And as you can see how the circulation for the parent drop-off would be, just really trying to create, again, more capacity on site. Other things we talk about is security. Currently now you have roughly where the red lines are shown, those are 4-inch gates there now, fencing. We'd like to bring that up to 6 feet. 4 foot, yeah. So we'd like to bring it up to 6 feet now. And also the white arrows, 5 units? 5? Okay. And right now we have 5 the arrows showing strategically located access points, limited, which could be governed by, electronic access or by egress gates. And all of these would be locked during school hours. And here you can see the addition that we would do. We would build 4 pre-K classrooms and also 8 intermediate classrooms. And the pre-K is located next to where they're currently housing pre-K, so to keep that all in our order. Also a new covered play area and also an outdoor learning area. Here's some of the other improvements we would do. And classroom technology, we look at the lighting in the campus, also replace, upgrade fire alarm and intrusion detection around the campus. So a lot of these things we're going to look at and work with Matern. Other things is program flexibility. How do we look at FF&E? How do we look at alternate areas for education to occur with wireless access points, all of that. What we want to do is create flexibility to have every space in the school have an opportunity to be a learning environment. Also wall graphics to thematically improve, to create energy, ideas, sense of purpose, sense of neighborhood of each of the buildings, that they can have their own identity, their own colors. These are things that we can handle throughout the buildings in the community. Also sustainability, with the help of Matern and us, it's important that we have a sustainable project that have responsible and energy efficient equipment, plumbing fixtures, and all of this, so that this is something we would definitely strive for and to provide for you in this project. Talking about costs real briefly, one of the things about costs is you can see the escalation. I hear rumors of it kind of settling in, but I don't know yet. But some of the costs and reasons for this is materials, long lead items, and really, a lot of people are busy. So you're not seeing a lot of subs being a lot of competitive as they used to be. So that's something that we need to keep an eye out on. But the way we work and process, we have a cost estimator on board. We like to work with them as we design our project Throughout the whole phase of a project, we would work with them, and then, in the end, find you at the end of that submittal to have a completed cost estimate. But before moving forward, we would have a reconciled cost estimate and scope for you as we move on to each phase. Other things we want to talk about, cost containment strategies. It's important we work hand in hand with our contractor, construction manager, verify long lead items. And one of the things is to look at maintaining versus replacing complete items into a building. For example, our roof system, doors, those things can remain, we can remain, but with some maintenance. And one of the things I think has been very important for us to contain costs is that we stay involved as a design team. We don't hand this project over to our construction administration. We, Angie and I, you will see us on site with our hard hat and our vest walking the site. So that's what's important, and we try to use our experience to ward off any potential issues that may occur. So now?
So, using the motto, Together We Can, we came up with some ideas on how we can help you transform this campus. Together we can transform this campus into a safer campus. We can create exciting new learning environments. We can improve student pickup and drop-off circulation. We can improve and create a new front door for the campus. We can work alongside the community and listen. We can with you. I'd just like to say, quite frankly, we know that you have consultants that you generally use and are happy with, but we have a smaller footprint in the school districts in Florida. So we're very selective in that. So then we can provide you more attention. So our team is ready to move forward and to work on this project and provide you an excellent solution for what your needs are. With that, we'll open up for any questions you might have. Hopefully that's within the time. Yep, 30 seconds.
Well done.
All right. We'll start the 15-minute Q&A.
Okay. Any questions, board members?
I'm good right now.
You good? Ms. Luke, you good?
I think so.
Brandy
Of
Burke?
course, I've got a couple.
I think so.
If you can go back a couple slides to the rendering of the new building. Keep going.
Right there?
Yeah, that one's great. So I like the overall design. My question is on that outdoor learning area behind the cafeteria and just in front of the new building, in that middle area. If I'm remembering correctly, that's a pretty steep slope at current, and just trying to place that building and where I kind of think that is kind of sized to scale. What are your thoughts on making that space conducive? I mean, I think it's a pretty steep slope that goes down to those existing portables. And if we're going to put that outdoor learning space in there, which I think is a great use of that space, just trying to figure out how we get that done with the existing site that's there.
Well, there's always cut and fill. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, there's always a lot of things we can do. We can cut and fill, import fill, which I think does add money to it. Also, there are other things that keep in mind, we showed you one design process. We've had other designs where this building was turned that way, so that it would probably alleviate some of that grade differences that you may have. But these are things that we would work with, or whether we just drop the whole building in there and you gradually ramp towards it. Having a grade change like that could also help us in tiering and creating areas for classrooms or just, kind of an educational setting, that it can be done with landscape or just grade or.
I think it's a great design. I like the layout a lot. Just want to make sure we can maximize that space. And is the idea of the new Building 7 to have it match the exterior, the rest of the existing campus?
At this point, yes, we think it is. There's no reason to, other than, maybe on the outside, we could do brick, and if cost is really an issue, maybe the interior side of it, where it's not seen to the public, could go to stucco or something else that could be less expensive. But I think from an external standpoint, we may want to maintain some brick facade, something to maintain that, and metal roof. And too bad we're not doing this out of wood, because we have a truss manufacturer just south of here. That'll work very well. But unfortunately, it's going to have to be steel.
On the new front door, I know you guys went over a lot in a short amount of time. What are the overall ideas for improving that front landscape? Was it similar to what you showed in the picture before? on adding that overhang and just an elevated approach, or?
Yeah, I think some of the things we would work with, and we'll definitely work with the school on, is right now, there's a lot of the canopy here that is dropped off, but what if, this whole parent drop-off extends with a new canopy there, so now you can use that canopy as a design feature and design element. And also, we can also accent this, create a different marquee or something that is more pronounced, our signage. And so there's a lot that we can do, work with our landscape architects. I know there was a wonderful median in there with 2 or 3 trees there that symbolize entry, but we can still kind of maintain some things that are happening in this area. But part of our idea would be to enhance that front, if allowed to by budget.
Perfect.
And preferably a canopy would be that option.
And then that new covered play area, is that just to the east of Building 7, where that's going to go? And is there
Yes.
restrooms built into that?
There's restroom, there's a PE storage, also office area or any type of things that would be aided to it. One of the things is the orientation. We looked at many orientations of it, but we wanted that covered area to be something so that it would focus back out to the playing areas and the existing basketball courts, so they would have supervision in that whole area. And, then have the versatility of weather, all of these things, you can have the class. Also, it's off the beaten path of, sometimes I know PE teachers don't want to be involved with the recess. Their programs are slightly different, and they get distracted, and they kind of want to be isolated. So I think we kind of get some of that there.
Thank you.
Anything further?
So this would obviously take the place, or it sits in the spot of the existing portables, right? So where do
Right.
those go during construction?
Well, here's the thing. One of the assets that you have here is that we were told, and I think working with the principal, is there may be some capacity into your existing buildings, that you may have classrooms that are empty, and as those portables have to be moved, either, that's always a plus. If we could find a way to house them into the existing buildings during the duration of that, that'd be great. All right, but if not, then maybe we have to move the portables and provide, lesser numbers. But that would still be a cost reduction on the project that you would have. So.
Good. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you guys very much.
Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Are we going to discuss them now, or?
Thought we were.
Because I can invite him back in.
I understood that was the process. We would, okay. Yes, sir.
Invite him back in.
Just let them know they can come in.
Why do we have to wait for them? So we can talk about them.
Much better.
And as they're coming in, Kelly, Dave, or anybody else, the roofs on the existing buildings, are those original from when we built the campus, I assume? Are those getting near the end of their useful life, or what are we thinking there? They okay? I'm trying to remember.
In fairly good shape.
Okay.
As we go through the assessment process, we decide that they need some remediation. There's actually a solution that we're doing at Lincoln Park, where basically it's an overlay. Dave can tell you a lot more of the technical details of it, but we did it at Spring Creek as well. And it adds a lot of life to those sanding seam, and at a much lower cost.
Correct.
Do you want to hear about that?
No.
You got a plan, I'm good.
We trust you. Thank you.
I had a question. There was one of the vendors, and it was Zykovich, said that we would be saving about 6,000 square foot in the building that he was talking about doing. You may not be able to speak to this, but then the next vendor, the Schenkel Schultz, and even the third vendor, the Rhodes and Brito, they did not speak about the size being different. They kept that 13,000 square foot margin. So I was just curious, With the first vendor, would the classrooms be smaller then? Is that the suggestion?
It was two-story versus single-story.
I don't think so, because you asked specifically if it was single-story, because he was building.
No, he was doing a two-story comparison to a single-story. It was 16,000 to 13,000.
So I missed
Which is in the
Square footage when you go to one story.
Which was in the same realm as the other two.
Okay.
Yeah, it seemed like they all ended up proposing a single story as their
I had that he
best
did the
option.
single-story, but I swear, even when he was talking about that last design, I thought he said that it was only, we would be saving, I definitely wrote down that the single-story would be saving us capacity.
Saving us square footage.
Square footage, yeah.
Which he did say, but the comparison was to a two-story.
Okay.
That was what he meant.
Okay.
Or that's my interpretation.
Okay.
I interpret it the same way. yeah.
So of the plans we saw today, the list of needs expressed by administration, I'm assuming, I know they all three addressed it in some way. Is there a particular plan that addresses it more? One of my concerns is the bathrooms. I hear about the bathrooms by the pavilion, and that's wonderful. But I think bathrooms are also a problem in the building.
Correct.
So I heard one company talk about, and I believe it was Shingle Schultz, about putting the bathrooms inside the classrooms. Well, when you do that, you don't really alleviate the need for bathrooms in other classrooms. So I have a little bit of a concern there. I guess maybe I should ask Mr. Dudley. I don't know if he's had an opportunity to look at that, but is that going to meet your needs for bathrooms for current classrooms, with those bathrooms going inside the classrooms of the new building?
So two of the three consultants, as I observed, presented ideas to put very similar restrooms into place that we have throughout the rest of the campus, which were between two classrooms internally. My request or suggestion would be that they do that same exact thing, but make them accessible from the hallway, because those are all resource rooms along that area. And so by simply changing the access to them, if the same location would be great, but changing the access from being an internal access to a internal into the hallway access, that would solve the problem that I've identified. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Keep the microphone. Mr. Dudley, keep the microphone. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right. So you sat here and heard the three presentations.
Yes, sir.
Fundamentally, Sokovich versus Shingle Schultz, the biggest difference to me was moving the admin and giving it, in my world, gives it a better sense of arrival, but I want your opinion.
So that took me by surprise, truthfully. I mean, it was just not in my wheelhouse. It took me a minute to feel my way through what that was. All of the all of the consultants identified community as a big sense of what our school is about. And part of that is also tradition and a way of doing things. That would be a radical departure from the way we've done business for the past 25 years. It's not, I thought that was very attractive in a lot of different ways, but it would significantly change the way our school operates, the way we do business on our existing campus, the way our media center acts as a hub for some different things that we do. So it would change things significantly. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, I'm just saying it took me a minute to wrap my head around that.
Do you see a benefit of changing that sense of arrival?
I see a benefit in terms of making it a readily identifiable front of your school administrative entryway. So that is something that we did ask to have them address, was readily identifiable administration. So that was one way to do it, yes, sir.
Because it is an odd campus to me. When you come in, you have to go down the side. It's very odd to find the front.
It is.
So.
I think some of the issues that we talked about with parking, I still got to have a concern with buses being on the north and parents being on the south, and how that queue goes at the end of the day trying to get out onto Rolling Acres Road. And the thought of moving all of admin to one corner of campus instead of being really in the center, attached to the media center now, where you can go out the back, you can go out the sides, you can get where you need to get a lot quicker that way. It's an interesting idea, and they're very good at interesting ideas, but I don't know if that's what we need at that campus. I think it's, to your point, a very radical shift for not a lot of additional benefit, in my opinion.
Any other comments?
I was really hoping you were going to give some really definitive insight on this admin move, because when Bill was asking that question, I was like, that's the one we all want to know.
That is the million-dollar question.
That is, because for me, that's the big difference.
And I go back to what I said before in terms of it being like culture, tradition, heritage part of the school. I think the admin and the media center functioning the way it does, I don't see I'll go back to what Mr. Brandenburg said, I don't see a appreciable benefit to moving the administrative building when I think it can be done differently with signage and changing parking structure and keeping the existing location of the lines that we have there, just improving upon them. I think that would be a better way to do things in my life.
That would elevate, well, not physically elevate, but that would add presence to the identifiability of the front of the school with that, still, without moving.
I think we can still achieve it by expanding the parking area and expanding the car loop through, which were options by that same
Right.
consultant,
That
all
wasn't
three
the
of them.
plan they gave us.
But, so I think, if I had to answer it this way, I'd say of the options presented by that same consultant, option 4 was not my favorite.
I see.
Well, and I think too, there was a lot of thought in how that school was laid out originally with the trust plan on the backside, and the thought of putting more activity on the back half of campus, which there's really not a lot going on there for a reason. I mean, it's the bus loop in the back half of the cafeteria, because that trust plant can be so noisy and all the construction's going on back there. I don't know, I don't think it works for that site to move it that way.
Do you feel if that building were moved, you could still adequately supervise? I mean, that's a lot of space from where you are to all the places you or someone.
So in
would
answering
need to
that
be.
question, we have, each of the existing buildings has office space built within them, so there are opportunities to put different administrative personnel in different buildings based on the existing infrastructure.
And I have, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I have one last question for
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
The last presenter, they had created quite a few entrances with gates. Do you would you like to have all those gates?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
What we're trying to maintain is a single point of entrance and
Gotcha.
minimize that access as much as possible.
But aren't all those gates really already existing? I mean, off of the teacher parking lot where it is now, you've got a gate there. You got a lot of ways onto campus, I agree, but I don't know if they necessarily added many
From
more.
the perspective of function,
Yeah.
we close that existing parking lot during the day, and so the only place accessible to the general public is right along the front of the school, which leads to the fact that while it looks like we have adequate parking, that parking is shut off from the general public during the day because we lock it for security purposes. So any of the suggestions that showed additional parking in the front of the school were favorable.
And all of them mentioned that this is just their pre-designs, that they would all be working with you
Absolutely.
and having discussion about all these things. I think that, even in listening to the presentations, I felt like the last group were a little bit more limited, but I think that they were trying to convey that they were open to listening to the needs, and just based on what they convey, we're going to show you this, but we know, I mean, they all speak the same language, they all have the same thought process, so it's kind of interesting to me. I feel like the first design gave all these options, but kind of there's a detriment to that too, because now like, no, we don't really like that
Right.
new innovative design, and do you know what I mean? Like, do you give
I
too
know
much, or do you
exactly
give
what
not enough, or?
Yeah, right.
Or do you land somewhere in the middle? But it's just interesting to me. Don't not change just for the sake of not changing. I like the construction idea.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
thought process too.
No, there were a number of configurations where the existing portables could stay during
Stay.
construction, or that they would have to go during construction. If we picked one of these configurations that puts a building in the side of the existing portables, do you have a place to absorb these students and these other resource rooms and everything?
We have a plan to make that happen, yes, sir.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to like move the portables to
No,
somewhere else
that's
on
right.
campus?
We understand that that's not a cost-effective way to do business, so
Right.
we've been putting our heads together to come up with some different plans to
Okay.
absorb those classrooms for the short term, right?
We wouldn't need to be limited to picking a spot that loses the. Okay, the other question I got, I guess during that is, after this is all said and done, are we trying to remove the portables from the campus?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
They are leased portables, so
They're
my
leased.
preference would
Okay.
be to send them back. And I think honestly, at this size, this will buy us quite a bit of time to absorb that coming growth
Okay.
in there. And then, just as a reminder, kind of in the long term, this would put this school up at about 1,000 student stations, probably about the size that the maximum size we would really want it to be. And then in the long term, between the Villages and Fruitland Park, we still own that 40 acres off of Anderson and Arlington. It's future development, but I think in the long term, that would probably be where we would just build another school.
That's great. It seemed like an oddity to me that you spent all this money on this new construction and leave these portables here for
Yeah.
10 years down the road, we might need them
I
again.
would want to send those back and stop paying that monthly fee.
Okay, very good.
And then that shouldn't also determine where we place the building, is what you're suggesting, that we don't need additional space later.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually, it could be that you would want portables there, if we can figure out how to place that building so that we aren't, we're leaving that portable field. Costs a little bit of money, or it saves a little bit of money in the very long term. Is it worth that consideration if it turns out that's the best location for the building? Probably not. I mean, it's not that big a savings.
I want to be careful with how I say this, and somebody stop me if I'm getting out of line, but I think that, touche. I did like the design of the third one, how it was a longer building that kind of matched up with the front of the school, and I know these are all subject to change, but we've done a lot of work with the first two vendors. This third one was the highest overall rated on the committee as well. I think they had a good design for the last one, too. And I just think we need to keep in mind how we're spreading out jobs and where the right ones are to look at other partners. And just want to make sure we don't get stuck on one or two, and kind of the pros and cons that comes with that. So I thought they were all very qualified, but I had one in my mind that I thought was better than the others.
I can tell you from procurement perspective, this is music to my ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said. So with that said, once we rank them, would it be okay for us to put things that we particularly like about that particular one? Would that assist you in procurement, or are you just going to look at our numbers?
Well, so in the end, the ranking and the numbers
Okay,
determine the outcome.
okay.
I do want to say this about your position, and I agree with you a little bit. The other side is what was appealing to me is both number one and number two really had a sense of urgency about the project and understood the timeline, that their dollars really made a lot more sense as far as the budget goes. And with number one, what was appealing to me was they did come up with 4 options, where the others only came up with 2. So that's where I landed with how I'm evaluating.
A lot more creativity and.
Yeah. And I know that when we first developed our prototype using Sokovich, that they were out of the box, and I think they came up with a very nice prototype that we've used now 3 times.
And I don't disagree with any of those statements. I think what's different here is building onto an existing campus, not like a full renovation where we're knocking down buildings and building more. I think the third one is very thoughtful with the jobs they pick. They said they're on site a heck of a lot more. And what concerns me is with how many jobs the first 2 are already doing and spreading out their project managers and what's going on. We've got a limited workforce, as we all know all too well. And when you put a lot of eggs in one basket, there could be some pros and cons that come with that too. So I just think when we're looking at jobs on an individual basis, this seems like a good one in my mind, to really think long and hard about where we go and maybe bring in another player to the table. So that's just my thoughts.
Along that line, I will make a final comment based on personal experience. Having been the principal at a site where an additional classroom building was built while students were still on campus versus a new construction of a school, I always found it extremely helpful when the architect was around, because sometimes things came up for me as a principal that I wish to change, and I'll give you an example. The height of the in the front office, the height of the whatever you call it, the counter, where the children step up to. It did not occur to me, because I'm challenged in that area. So when you speak feet to me, I have to visualize it. And I did not realize that my little kindergartners, for the most part, although this building had been built 3 other times before, but all of a sudden it dawned on me, hey, they can't really see without looking up like that. And because the architect was at my disposal, I could say to them in one of the construction meetings, hey, how much of a problem would it be to raise this a little bit? And they said, no problem. And I found that I was able to work with them on several issues like that. So I think, I like the idea that the architects are not just going to draw the plans and go away, that they will be present and available. So, are there any other comments? No? Questions? You have some final instructions for us, sir?
That's it. All I'm asking is the scores and the ranking for each vendor. And I'll collect it from you, and then I will discuss it with the superintendent.
We certainly appreciate your hard work on this, and I really appreciate the conversation, the calling, and making sure that we understand everything, and the good directions that we receive via email. So thank you so much for your contribution.
Appreciate it.
And Principal Dudley, thank you, sir. I know how much you hate being away from campus, so we appreciate you being able to come in and help us.
As you should.
Does anyone need a break, or we?
We're going to score then.
Okay.
I'm good.
We have another topic on the agenda.
No, just for a break.
Yeah, we'd like to take a 10-minute break,
You
please.
said score and go.
No, score and go to the restroom.
I am ready. Are you, we back on?
We are on.
All right, well, we are continuing with this morning's workshop. We have one final item, and we'll keep this brief. And, but this is that time of year where we do a mid-year update, just highlighting some of our key instructional priorities, and it's just seemed timely as we know that the state is going to release some baseline information from last spring's progress monitoring assessment. We thought it was going to come out on last Friday, but it did not, but we know that it's coming before the holiday break, so we felt like it was a good time before that information is released to share some of the things that you may see in the data that will be provided to us from the state. So I'll turn over to Mr. Flowers in just a minute. He'll talk more about that. But I wanted to give you some information about a presentation that I did last month at the first ever Lake County Economic Development Summit. This was organized by the Office of Lake County Development in partnership with a lot of other agencies, including the Florida Chamber. And so I was going to give you a quick overview of that presentation so that you knew one of our key priorities, something that I haven't talked to you about in a while that we want to bring back to the forefront. But in attendance at that summit was about 200 business and community leaders, and the focus was to talk about economic development and our local workforce needs. And the summit was facilitated by Mark Wilson, who is the president of the Florida Chamber. So my presentation began, of course, with our mission, and it set the stage for the conversation that took place that day, knowing that education is the most powerful tool for reducing poverty and ensuring a skilled workforce. And so I was able to have this opportunity to highlight some of our work around college and career readiness, but also to talk about one of our greatest challenges, and that's really what I want to focus on here for the next few minutes. I did share with them some demographic information, and this might be new for you. It might have been a while since you've seen some of our district data in front of you. Our fabulous IT team actually have developed a dashboard, and so this is real-time data. I can go in on any day, any moment, and see these numbers in terms of our enrollment. And I asked them to do a quick turn and talk. We had an educational moment just to look at the data to see if there was anything that might be surprising to them about our school demographic data. And the conversation really that they focused on was our increasing Hispanic population. If you can see, it's approaching 30% of our population. And we certainly know that that's a key area of focus for us. But also, I think they were most surprised by our economically disadvantaged numbers and not realizing that 43%, and so you think about almost half of our student population as defined as economically disadvantaged. These are students who participate in or whose family participate in economic assistance programs such as free and reduced price lunch programs, Social Security, food stamps, foster care. So if you think about it number-wise, that represents 23,423 of our students that are considered economically disadvantaged. And Mark Wilson shared the Florida Scorecard, which I'll talk about in just a second, which is a tool that they developed. It says that 12,000 of those students, so exactly 12,029 of our students, of those 23,000, are identified as poverty, living in poverty. So families earning less than $26,500. So that was kind of an eye-opener, I think, for a lot of our community and business leaders to think about that we have such a high number of students that are identified as economically disadvantaged. So in that presentation, I did take them to our strategic plan. We talked about some of our strategic goals. I focused primarily on 1A in regards to ELA and math achievement. I also focused on 1C, which is the college and career readiness. And then we added a new strategic goal. And this is really what I wanted to talk to you about today, which is to increase access for all students to attend a high-quality VPK program, and why it's so critical that we focus on this. So Mr. Flowers is going to talk about 1B and 1D, as well as hit a few highlights of the others, but I want to take a minute to talk more specifically about 1E, and this is really that setting of the stage and that foundational piece that I shared at the summit, and that is kindergarten readiness. So why did we add this goal? Because we have to, and the numbers and the data is very clear that this has to be a strategic focus for us. But my message for the community and business leaders was that we as educators, parents, and a community, we have to do this together. This is not something that the school district can do alone. And that was really the key point made by Mark Wilson from the chamber, is that indeed is true, that we have to look strategically community-wide in order to ensure that all of our students have access to high-quality kindergarten programs, because it is the number one way that we're going to reduce the poverty rates and increase economic development as well as the quality of life. So what does that information look like? So the Florida Chamber developed this Florida scorecard, and it has a lot of community data, but there is an educational piece on their website. And so this chart actually came specifically from that website. So if you look at the numbers, kindergarten readiness this past year, 2023 data, we had 53% of our kindergarten students scored ready for kindergarten. So this is the state screener that they take within the first 30 days of kindergarten. So you think about that. Half of our kids came into kindergarten ready. So it's pretty clear, right? We have about 50% of our kids who do not have access or who are not participating in a high-quality pre-K program. The state kindergarten readiness rate was 49%. So we're better than the state, but still it's so alarming to me to think that 50% of our kids are coming into kindergarten. They do not have the basic math, reading, number sense, motor skills, all of the things that are assessed on that screener, they are not scoring proficient in. And then we look a little bit further at some of our data. And again, I could get into the numbers of this in more detail, but again, I wanted to just summarize it for you. We look at third grade readiness. We go back and we look historically at the trends, and it has been about that same 50% mark. And what we know from looking at our own district data and having our assessment accountability team look student by student and do a kind of a cursory look at the students not scoring proficient in third grade, go back to kindergarten, they're the same students that did not come into kindergarten ready. So we think about the achievement gap and closing the achievement gap. That gap has already begun if they come into kindergarten and they don't come in kindergarten ready. So we know that if we are ever going to close the achievement gap, if we're going to break this cycle of the 50% coming in not kindergarten ready, 50% not scoring proficient by third grade, it's got to begin at that early point of kindergarten readiness. And going back and looking at ways that we can increase access as well as the quality of programs countywide. So I'll talk a little bit about the strategies and things that are in place in just a second. But I wanted to just again highlight the 50-50-50 rule. And I threw it in the math chart because you can look at how much better and quicker we're closing that achievement gap in third grade math. And Mr. Flowers will talk a little about some of the reasons why that has occurred and why we're still lagging behind in that area of reading. So what are we doing about it? Here's some of the strategies that I shared with the community. We have expanded VPK access. You know that this was last year was the first year that every one of our elementary schools offered a VPK program. And we increased the number of classes, primarily in our higher poverty schools. It's still not enough. We still do not have enough space. So I was glad to hear in one of the presentations that they understood that we have a VPK issue and we need to provide more classroom spaces for VPK. So as we are doing renovations, we are making that a priority. And then House Bill 7039 was passed this last legislative session that requires daily targeted small group instruction. We know this goes back to our core belief of teaching and learning, what we want for every student every day, really honing in on those best practices as required. And then you knew that we added AMIRA, which is that artificial intelligence reading tutoring supplemental program as part of that House Bill requirement. And that has taken off in our schools. We've had a chance to visit some of the classrooms and see that in action and seeing some impressive things. I know Mr. Flowers can have more on that as well. And then we did adopt a district-wide phonics and phonemic awareness program that is Foundations. This was something that we did not have a consistent early learning or early readiness program in terms of phonics and phonemic awareness. So we do have that in place and lots of training and support around that. We are keeping our academic tutor assistance. That's been a funding priority of this board in kindergarten and first grade and something that we think is certainly having an impact. And then we're looking at opportunities to extend or expand parent training and support, specifically in our Title I schools, in the area of literacy and early learning skills. I've had a chance over the past year or so to work with LCEA and with FEA around some ideas to increase literacy rates and kindergarten readiness in some of our schools. And so we have a project that we're working on right now to incorporate that community school concept, specifically at Leesburg Elementary School, and working alongside them on that. So again, everyone pulling together, working alongside each other, knowing that it's going to take all of us working together. So here's just a little bit of the numbers that I thought you might find of interest. So right now, we have 921 students enrolled in a Lake County VPK program. We have 198 students on a waiting list. So again, how do we go out into the community? How do we get our faith-based partners? How do we get businesses to also adopt these types of programs, working alongside the Early Learning Coalition and others to expand the access?
Approximately how many kindergartners do we end up with in a year? I'm just wondering what kind of percentage of the students are going to end up coming through one of our programs versus those outside partners that you just talked about.
So our kindergarten enrollment right now is about 3,600. Does that sound right? I had that number somewhere.
About
It's
a quarter of the
30.
kids.
Yeah, it's
will
about
come through
30.
one of our programs.
I want to say it's about 3,600, yeah.
Okay, wow.
And so then the conversation at the summit really focused on, and this was facilitated by the presenter, how might we as a county support the expansion of VPK programs? The Early Learning Coalition folks were in the room. We talked about the expansion within our faith-based partners. And then just some strategies around community awareness. How do we make sure that every parent who has a 4-year-old ready to enter knows that they have access to programs? And if they don't have access or they don't want to participate in a regular VPK program, how do they know what the early readiness skills are? So how do we provide them a packet of information as well as some parent nights and training to be able to ensure that if they're not in one of our programs, that they're coming with those readiness skills. We know that available classroom space is one of our most limiting factors, as well as transportation. And I know Liz West is here, and I was going to ask her just to come up for just a second. She has some of our fabulous VPK resource teachers here with us this morning. They're doing a lot of work around this, working alongside our partners, and so Liz was just going to come up and introduce them really quick. But she can tell you as well that the number one, I think, limiting factor is transportation. Remember that the state does not provide funding for transportation of VPK students, and something that Senator Baxley was there that day, and so we've had some follow-up conversation about how do we look legislatively at funding for transportation. So would you ladies like to come up? just
Before you
really quick?
leave, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
The 198 students on the waiting list, are they just not enrolled in our VPK, or are they not enrolled anyplace?
They're not enrolled anyplace. Turn over to Liz real quick.
Good morning, and thank you.
Morning.
I'm going to be sure to speak into the microphone. I was very humbled, and it was a great pleasure to accompany the superintendent at that workforce summit. And as you all know, nothing is done by any one individual, so I wanted you to see the faces of the team that make this great. And so, come on up. This is Kim Commandant. She is one of our VPK resource teachers. She comes to us from Georgia with 39 years of experience, both gen ed as well as ESE, and has been a phenomenal support to us. And then we have Danielle Jarrett, who, oddly enough, I almost had to sit on her this morning because she came from the Villages, and she taught 20 years of VPK at the Villages. So what we are looking at, when the superintendent talked about transportation, and we also have some ELC concerns because our 4-year-olds can no longer attend. The superintendent came across something that we're looking at from Marion County, possibly in the future, to have a site that would be something that the parents, if they chose, the transportation as well as the before and after school could be provided for the students, and it would be all, the parents would then fund that portion, because they have half the day with a voucher. But the other half, we have to provide the wraparound services, we have to charge So those are some of the ways for expansion and removing barriers that we're looking at. I also wanted to tell you that Letizia Hagebrook is our administrative coordinator, and she is a part of the VPK team as well as works very hard with our ESOL and ELL population. So we work everything together, even though we're in two different office spaces, but we are very proud of the work, that doubling the numbers and having a class on every single campus has been a dream of ours, and we're happy we've made it a reality. It's been through the support of everyone and all of you. Thank you.
So just to reiterate, in case there was some confusion, so our ELC programs, your VPK students are not allowed by law to attend those programs because they have to be DCF-approved programs. So having a site that we're actually looking at possibly Rhymes, we're doing some renovations there. Been out there looking at possibly creating an early learning hub there as our, since they are our early learning center. That would allow, when we construct it, we would construct it based on those DCF guidelines so that those students could come before and after school, which would be a huge incentive for parents to keep them there all day. And so that's what she was referring to. So we are working on that. So
Even though we've got barriers like transportation or the aftercare, there's still a waiting list.
there's still a waiting list, yes.
So really, the capacity is a problem also,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
How do we generate, I don't know, maybe this is later on in your presentation, how do we generate more space for these people just to get these kids in?
Yeah, we've just got to be very mindful when we're doing renovations and building new schools that we build extra space for VPK. Looking at our school sites now, trying to find any available space, whether portables come available, rather than returning them back to the owner, we look for every opportunity on every campus to provide those additional spaces. So just have to get creative, but we are committed to looking at every campus to provide increased access.
Of those 198 kids, do we know geographically where they are?
North
We
Lake.
do? Okay.
It gotta be, yeah. I think we've got, this is an issue all across the county, but even more so in North Lake, of just the number of high-quality VPK partners. So really looking at options at Rhymes and at others, and we've been sitting on the money from when we sold the ag farm in Fruitland Park a couple years ago to the tune of like $4.5 million. Talked with Scott Warden, Kelly, and others just if this could be a worthwhile project in some capacity to put that towards, and I don't want to speak for them, but it sounded like there was some excitement there at using that funds and some others. But this is such a big problem in our Leesburg High School feeder schools and others, but just the number of seats available, working with our faith-based partners and others that can help with this capacity too. As the superintendent said, we got to be all hands on deck for this, and I'm just very excited to see this continue to expand.
So as I mentioned, we do expect the state grades to come out, that it will include both school grades as well as district grades. Just an important thing to remember as they're released this year, it is baseline only. It's based on the first year of the new progress monitoring assessment. It does not include writing, which has been a very strategic focus instructionally for us, which is unfortunate because that's an area in which we typically have seen some significant progress. And remember, it doesn't include learning gains. So this is only this percent of students scoring proficient, that's level 3 or above, and not taking into account any of the learning gain components that we've done really well in the past. So not sure how reflective they'll be of the great things happening in our schools. We haven't seen them yet, not sure what they're going to look like. But I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Flowers. He does have a little bit more information about that, talk about the accountability system, talk about our key instructional initiatives, and then I'll come back and wrap us up with our focus on college and career readiness, our projected graduation rate, which I will share with you in just a minute. So
Before you go, can I ask a question about the VPK data?
Okay.
Are the state's grading that nowadays, right? The VPK at the end of the year or something?
Yes.
Is that going to be all part of
yes.
this data that they'll release? So like, will each private provider will be able to see who is producing? So I had a VPK student last year, and I remember her doing all sorts of testing, for state accountability measurements. so we'll know which private providers need a little more support than others.
That is correct, yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
But it's not part of the grade.
But it's not part of, right,
Right.
not part of our school grading system.
But yes, we do get
each-
that data, yes, by provider, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That'll be interesting to look at.
Yes, yeah, and I think they've been looking at that, actually, and
Okay.
this is the team that actually goes in and provides additional support, but that has to be something that we have conversation around with those that are not maybe performing as well as they should. How can we provide greater, more than just a daycare? Like, how do you ensure that the kids coming out of your program are kindergarten ready, and looking at those that aren't, and having some conversation, and something that I am engaged in as well, to start being part of those conversations.
Because only a quarter of the VPK kids are coming through our system, right? So,
Correct.
So the majority elsewhere. And I'm just thinking about, for instance, reading competencies in that endorsement pathway, and how much is available to VPK providers, and if they're taking advantage of that, how much our own people are taking advantage, I don't know.
Right, with the micro-credentialing and all of that, yeah. Yes, I actually have a call into the Lassinger Center
Yeah.
to talk more about that, to make sure that, that all of our folks are aware that that's available to them. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and one of my observations through that, though, is just, and I don't know how Foundations aligns with that. I'd be interested in knowing how the Foundations alignment is in terms of, I think one of the big takeaways for me going through that micro-credential was and the blendable sounds and how you would teach that to make reading a lot easier and more fluid. And so it really just challenges the paradigm. And if the first time we're teaching the kids, oh no, instead of using buh for B, use buh, that's going to be, it's hard to shift that when somebody's already been ingrained with that for like 3 years through a preschool provider.
Yeah.
So we need to catch them early on that.
Absolutely.
All right, this is fascinating. I could talk all day about this. Sorry.
Me too. Have lots more information, but we're gonna.
Then I think y'all ought to get together.
We should. I'd love to sit down and talk some more.
So, school grades. The new performance standards or cut scores will be informational for schools and districts, and they work to help us to improve our performance in the future years. Also, the 22-23 informational baseline and district grades shall result in no negative consequences and are purely informational. And due to transition to fast assessments, learning gains will not be calculated until there are 2 years of baseline data. And they'll return beginning next school year in the 23-24 grades and school improvement ratings. Something interesting also is the school grade rule for the 22-23 year has been amended so that the following calculation is baseline grades using new assessment cut scores. And the school grade point thresholds will be established by school type, so elementary, middle, and high, to ensure results mirror the 21-22 results. So can only contain these percentages for A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's. Something else important.
So even if a school is more proficient.
Correct.
Okay.
That's our pain
That's the
point,
opposite
yes.
of that.
Crazy. Crazy.
And then the third grade standalone component is not going to go into effect until the next school year. So that's a big one because it's essentially counting ELA twice for third grade. Along with state grades, there's also, all schools are also receiving a federal ESSA rating. And these are our federal ESSA ratings. There are 3 types. There's the CSI, Comprehensive Support and Improvement, Targeted Support and Improvement, or TSI, and then a newer category called Additional Targeted Support and Improvement, and ATSI. So currently, we have 33 schools that are ATSI, and that would mean that, just to get this correct, that would mean that a school is identified that is not identified as CSI or TSI but has one or more subgroups with a federal index below 41% as identified for ATSI status. And
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Flowers? Sure. So you don't have, I was thinking that was just, you had to have a rating, so you don't have to have a rating, an ESSA support category rating.
we will have a rating.
Every school will have a rating.
No,
Right.
sorry.
Okay.
There are.
They had to have a subcategory that fell within a certain percentage to be a TSI.
Correct.
Got it.
Also, and it's our specific areas where we're usually identified are economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, ELL, and then white, Hispanic, and black. So those are the areas, and that's why there are so many up there that are, because they've been below 41% in one or more of those subgroups for 1 year. TSI schools are Oak Park, Carver, Eustis, and Leesburg, and our ATSI schools are one or more areas and below 41%. And then our CSI schools are Groveland, Triangle, Mascot, and though we don't like it or entirely understand it, Lake Hills, and then Ali Academy are identified as CSI schools, and they're overall below 41%. And Groveland, Triangle, and Mascot are overall 41%. Ali, I think, is looked at in regards to overall 41% and their graduation rate. But Lake Hills, like I said, center schools are not exempt from having a category.
So, Mr. Flowers, make sure I understand. So the lower you are on the chart, the more need you need based on
Correct.
the 41% or whatever else? Okay.
Correct.
Because if you've got target then additional target, it makes it seem like the higher you get up on the chart, the more the need is. It was just a little confused by that than to see 3 of my schools in the middle that I think need all the resources we can get just was a little confusing, so thank you.
I have a question, please. On the center school, Lake Hills,
Yes.
how does that take into effect alternative testing?
I'm going to let,
Well, she doesn't have
Ms.
to do it right.
Dillon.
Is she coming up later? I'm just curious as to how that happened.
Ms. Dillon Banks, would you like? Okay, sure.
Microphone.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
put you
it's
on-
fine. So we actually had to dig into this because when the subcategories that Lake Hills qualified for, students with disabilities, Hispanic, Black, white, it was pretty much all the categories across the board. It's a center school, all the students have disabilities, right? So we did
Right.
have to dig into that. So in order to be calculated in these components, it's simply the FSAA,
Okay,
which we're calling something else moving forward, and the FSA. The
Okay.
portfolio is not included in those calculations. So it's just the achievement scores in your subject areas, English, reading, math, science. I didn't say that right, social studies, science. The achievement scores, the
I
only
understand.
thing that's used. That
And
data portfolio.
FSAA too.
And FSA, depending on what they're eligible for, whichever test. All those students are on the FSAA. Most of them are on that data portfolio, but that data portfolio piece is not included, which makes sense because there's some subjectivity to how that's scored. It's like the teacher delivers that mechanism. So that's how it's categorized. And I did look up every single center school in the state of Florida. They're all CSI.
okay.
So
Just wanna make sure we're
I
getting
was
treated
interested
fairly.
To
Okay.
see how that was across, do we have a model somewhere that's doing
Right.
something that we can look at and like try to, get out of this little bucket? They're all CSI.
Thank you.
And I don't want to split hairs here. And I get it's based on data, but it's a little confusing to me that the 2 middles in the high school through the Leesburg feeder would qualify for the TSI, but then none of the elementaries would. It just, I don't know. I know that data gets very granular, and if you don't have the other categories for it to jump lanes can dictate those things, but just fundamentally, that doesn't make any sense to me.
So, for clarification purposes, a TSI school is also a CSI school that has at least one consistently underperforming subgroup with the federal index of below 32% rather than the 41% rate.
Okay.
So that's an additional below 41%, below 32%.
And that does make sense for those two
middle schools in your feeding pattern.
Agreed. Okay.
So as we kind of get into the data, we're going to talk about, and into the framework and action plans, we're going to talk about how we are supporting our CSI, ATSI, and TSI schools. Kind of wanted to talk about 1A, 1B, and then 1D as we're getting into it. This is our ELA goal, and it's to increase the percentage of students scoring proficient or above on the FAST in reading from 50% to 55%. This is 5-year historical data. And what you'll see is it is declining a little, but we're working to really work through that with the actions that we're putting in place and the support we're using through our instructional framework. These are FAST data results from 22 Progress Monitoring 1 through 3, and then we've looked at Progress Monitoring 1 for this school year, and you can see there's a tiny bit of a bump, and we're hopeful that those percentages are going to increase from Progress Monitoring 2 to Progress Monitoring 3 for this year to get much closer or above our target of 55%. And again, the state, as Superintendent mentioned, the state is releasing a retrofitted file that is based on the new cut scores that were determined by the Commissioner and the State Board of Education. That's going to possibly impact this data. Good or bad, we're not sure. So that's kind of where we are at this.
When are they anticipating releasing that? Is that after they set them, after this year?
They are releasing that retrofitted file any day now, because that's what grades are going to be based upon.
Got it.
So within the next, I'd say in the next 10 days.
Okay. I thought you were suggesting that once the baseline's set and then the next year's grades, they're going to retrofit. So you're just talking about
They've done a retrofit file to last year's progress monitoring scores based on the cut scores that they've established over the summer period.
So a kid who got a 2 last year might get a 3 suddenly when they retrofitted, or vice versa, a 3 might turn to a 2, or
That's correct.
something along those lines?
That's correct.
Okay, that's right.
But only 22% of them can get an A.
That's
I'm
right.
just kidding.
That's
Okay,
right.
go ahead.
You're good. And perhaps maybe you can set the record straight once and for all, because I'm hearing many different opinions. On your previous slide there, is it possible to do a quick go back? Okay, that 33% for PM1 this year, that's not a predictive score that 33% of our kids would pass, would get a 3 or above at the end of the year.
No.
If they were to take the end of the year test now on all the students, they would have had a 3.
Well, Progress Monitoring 1, the Progress Monitoring test is based on content for the entire year.
That's right. So we would expect them to not have mastered it yet.
Right.
That's not predicting that.
That's not
predicting. If you get a 1 or a 2 now on your report that goes home, we're not saying you're going to have a 1 or 2 at the end of the year.
That's correct, because you see how the 32% of last year increased to 35%.
That's right.
And then increased to 47%. And we're hoping for exponential growth this year, so.
It'd be great. Okay, but I guess this is one where I don't know that everybody fully understands that component yet. Because I do know that there were some situations earlier this year where teachers were saying, oh, your kid got a 1 or a 2 on this initial PM1, they need some intensive instruction. But really, it's, well, no, because you
Right.
just assess the entire year and they're in the first few weeks of.
Correct. This is
third grade.
baseline information for where we begin with your child for this year.
But isn't that because we're required to send home a letter when they
That
get
is
one?
correct.
Because you get a letter that says your child scored a 1 on the, I got the letter. So you're indicating to parents that your child scored a 1 on the beginning of the year progress monitoring assessment that he needs intensive reading. But you're telling me that it's on the whole
It's
year's
ba-
assessment, so we would anticipate that
We
as a
wouldn't
fifth
be alarmed.
grader,
That's right.
he shouldn't be passing.
It's
If
based
he's
on the-
passing the material, we should maybe be pushing him a little bit harder. Correct?
Based on the
So I just
content
feel
that's
like,
been
based
taught,
on
yeah.
this very contradictory information, and I know we're required to send that letter home, but I do think, like, obviously, I'm a little bit in the know, like, I kind of chuckled and threw the letter away, right? But I did get a text message from a parent that, like, was in tears, like, oh my gosh, I got this letter. I'm like, don't worry, Jay's got it too, like, with the laughing emoji. Like, and here's his score from last year where he got a 4. I don't even know how to help parents, and to Mr. Dodd's point, and to our point, like, I don't know what the point of this is. I don't even know what the point of that conversation is.
Here you got a couple of educators struggling with this letter that comes home, and then sometimes you're back and forth with the teacher going, no, wait, I don't think he needs intensive reading yet, because this is just being assessed on all the year standards. You're going to still give 160 more days of instruction.
It's a snapshot in time on where we were in the curriculum when they took the test in August, September. And it is, I mean, it does move up incrementally with the grade level, as to the next level is a little bit harder. And again, they may have been exposed, they may not have been exposed. So absolutely.
I suppose, and I'm totally self-reporting here, but was there an indicator on the letter that suggested maybe he should be here instead of, I mean, obviously we wouldn't want him to know all of the standards, but like, did he miss a mark of expectation for the first 9 weeks? Or for the beginning of the year, as an incoming 5th grader, did he miss a score?
So like maybe some level of 1 is okay, but if
Right.
you're like this far below the level 1, that's going to be, he probably does need.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, is there a, okay, when you take the PM1 in 5th grade, you should be here, but your kid was here, and that's why you're getting a letter? Or is it just, he got a 1 in the PM1, so you're getting a letter? You don't know. I know, I'm going to bring you my next letter. I bet I get another one in December. I'll bring it over. We'll
But
look
again, I
at it together.
think the conversation is, it's based on where they are within the curriculum at the time that they took it.
Okay.
Who
And
prepares the letter?
It's a state,
It's a state-issued letter, correct?
Correct.
So,
the only
it's
thing
got
on it
to-
is the name,
Yeah.
right? The only thing handwritten is the name.
it has to go out within 2 weeks.
Correct.
Based on statute.
Gotcha.
That was the whole purpose of progress monitoring, is to spread out progress over the 3 testing periods, and provide more information to parents on a timely basis.
Whether it's accurate or not is not what's important.
I wonder if we can attach a clarification letter.
I wonder as well.
Yeah, because I think, our
Sure
parents
will.
are struggling, our teachers even struggling to understand exactly what does this 1 mean now.
I would think there's several things we could do. Attaching an explanation, having some parent training at the school level to explain it. I mean, because that's always been the case. This is not new, since we've been doing progress monitoring. So, but it seems that if there's causing confusion, then perhaps we should do something to try and explain it.
And then you get the mixed message, because, you see this and you're like, oh my goodness, my kid's in a panic. And then you get the iReady report and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you get the STAR report and you're like, okay, now they're all over the place.
And then you get the grade.
And then you get the grade.
Sometimes all 4 of them send you a different message. I mean, so
That's right.
the importance of
Yeah.
triangulation of data,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, can be made, right? So there's, all of those pieces are important, but.
Those are great points. And
Good luck.
we can definitely look into a clarification piece, to where parents aren't thinking, oh my gosh, I'm ready for retention already. No, that's not what it's about. It's a snapshot in time. So, moving on to 1D for a few minutes, and we'll go back and forth between 1A, 1B, and 1D. To ensure our common vision for instruction and alignment, we use the district framework. And the key priority for us is to establish and support common vision through grade-appropriate assignments, strong instruction, deep engagement, and high expectations, which incorporates what we do every day with read, write, think, and talk, and as well as the PLC process. So I wanted to highlight our high-quality instructional materials with StudySync, Wit and Wisdom, Foundations, Amplify, and then our PLC work. So our improvement plan at this point is reinforcing the priorities of the instructional framework, providing essential frameworks around our high-quality instructional materials, including how we've used the ELA blueprints, essential standards, and aligned instruction. And then our professional learning teams, they're looking at data to drive interventions and MTSS processes to meet every kid's need. And then teaching and learn, we established a Teaching and Learning Summit this year to focus on our common vision, but also align our resources to ensure that what an ATSI school needs and what a comprehensive school needs and what everybody needs in regards to Tier 1 is communicated, and then we know what our resources are to support those various areas. And then in reading, we had, as the superintendent mentioned, we've implemented Amira in grades K through 5, and if you have not seen it, it's pretty cool to go and watch a kid read to an avatar correct or provide feedback to the student, and it's just been really exciting and to watch these kids move forward with Amira. And then we're providing additional ELL and ESC support to address our ATSI identification status schools. Increase the frequency and scope of our new teacher mentoring and coaching program, because that's going to be the key, is making sure we keep them and support them and grow them to be the effective teachers using all of our strategies. And then we're also conducting program evaluations to determine interventions and their effectiveness. Our current program evaluations in ELA are Achieve 3000, the iReady program, and then Edgenuity and Imagine Learning. And those are currently underway, and we are hoping to have more data on these program evaluations early next semester. And the teaching and learning team is also vetting options to these programs as we move forward. So getting into math, the story is a little more promising. And over the 5 years, you can see an upward trend in mathematics. In fact, our target for this year was 56%, and we hit that 56% target. And as you can see, learning gains, you can see the dip, but you can also see that we're coming back up to where we need to be after the COVID shutdown and strategies that were put in place there. So the idea is to increase the percentage of students scoring proficient or above on the FAST in math from 51 to 56%. We've already done that. But we can do better than 56%, so that's something that we will be addressing. You can also see from progress monitoring data that there's gains as well. So the trajectory moving forward in math is pretty promising. Also, our state ranking results moved from 37 in 2022 to 28 in 2023. Till you get to algebra. And then you see that we still have some challenges. You see the overall algebra at 49%, which is below the 56% target, and that's taking that 27 and averaging it with the 8th grade and lower, to where that you still see that 27% of 9th through 12th graders still not being successful at a rate that we would like in algebra. Hence the reason for establishing our algebra task force and starting to look at strategies how we improve algebraic reasoning from grades, really should be K through 10 to grades 3 through 10. So then we move on to geometry, and you see the same type of thing. Better, but we can get to 56 and beyond that. You notice that interesting 99% of geometry. What happened to the other 1%? But the geometry in 8th grade and lower. So it helps that a little bit. Same thing, wanted to talk in terms of the instructional framework. And that is our vehicle for proving what we do. We also have a partnership with Impact Florida, And one of the cool things that we did in a convening last week is started redefining the vision for mathematics instruction in Lake County Public Schools. Through our partnership, we're refining our common vision, and it's much more in line with the district instructional framework. So we're looking at strategies and aligning our high-quality instructional materials to really supporting the math and high-quality instructional materials to support our coherent curriculum. So the action plan moving forward is establish the task force, which that is in place. Implement the Impact Florida Math Cod Race Study and 5 conditions action planning process. And the cool thing about the 5 conditions is they are tied directly to our instructional framework with the shared vision, the high quality instructional materials, effective professional learning, empowered leaders, and then data for improvement. We also want to highlight high-quality instructional materials, and our content experts are doing a great job with this through the Lake County Schools Math Hub. I wanted to take you there, but I don't have access to that point. So I will take you there in a different way at some point through a link and an email. But it incorporates Florida's best standards, the Big M, progression documents that support where our kids are going from K through 10, and then assessment practices. And again, we're also conducting program evaluations in mathematics in regards to ALEX, IXL, and iReady as well. So in regards to supporting all students, we want to talk about tiered interventions and support. And an intervention is anything a school does above and beyond what all students receive to help certain students succeed academically. So of course we are supporting and providing resources to our TSI schools. Through the Teaching and Learning Summit, we kind of set a common vision as to how that's working. The district ESE, ELL school improvement and regional teams are pushing in to support school leadership teams and strategies for improvement. We're reinforcing the use of instructional resources from the departmental hubs. And we're providing additional professional learning on performance matter data to provide targeted support to our individual students and identifying subgroups. And that was huge at the summit, is they seeing that through Performance Matters, they're looking at kids individually instead of looking at a data set and kids not individually. And then in regards to support for all students, Tier 1 instruction is instruction that is given to all students. And that's our core Tier 1 instruction provided at grade level. Tier 2 is identified target supplemental intervention that is given to some students based on identified needs. And then Tier 3 is intensive individualized intervention that supports only a few students who need it, and it's got to be fluid and move up and down that tiered system.
You know, I've always struggled with this, and I guess I'll say it again here, that because you're looking at these percentages of students identified for Tier 2 or Tier 3 within the context of a single school, there would be students who would, if they were at any other school, might get Tier 3 interventions. But because they were at a school where so many kids would necessarily need those Tier 3 interventions, they don't get them, right? Like if we were to Cypress Ridge, for example, you get the bottom quartile includes kids who are proficient. Whereas you go to another school, the bottom quartile is entirely level 1s and maybe even beyond. And so like if you take that kid is in that school where their bottom quartile is 1s, they would have gotten Tier 3 somewhere else where they're not getting it. Certainly there's a shortage of manpower at each individual school, right?
Correct.
Because you don't have 50 extra people to come in and deliver Tier 3 interventions because that takes an extraordinary amount of time to sit with a kid in that very one-on-one sort of context. But I don't know. I think kids are missing out on interventions because of just what school they happen to attend.
In some cases, that's true. And I also think, and I think we've talked about this before, in regards to interventions, it can't be one size fits all per school, so everybody does it the same way, because you need to look at different strategies to support your tier 3s, your tier 2s, and then build on your core. A lot of this can be improved by us improving core tier 1 instruction. However, like I said, those tier 3 kids, they deserve what we can give them. And like I said, it can't be one size fits all to where we're walking to intervention, or it might be another group of people working with your tier 3 kids, some doing walk to intervention for tier 2, but then really focusing in on tier 1.
And particularly that'd be great in a school where, let's say you got room for 15 kids to do tier 3 interventions, and you go to one school, and the 15 kids include the kids who have level 3s. Whereas if, let's say you go to another school where you only have 15 spots, you got 50 kids with a level 1, you just can't get them all, right? And so there's the benefit of the core instruction, so that way hopefully you get more people out of that level, but I don't know. There's probably still some benefit there of that one-on-one or small group interaction that, like if I'm sitting down with you because you don't understand something, I can really hone in and target you to make sure you get what you're confused about.
Correct.
Whereas the big group, it's hard to hone in on you.
Or even smaller groups.
Smaller groups.
Right.
Yeah.
And different ways to rotate those smaller groups. Other thoughts on that? So, in addition, we've got our departmental hubs, and this is a wealth of information this is ESC, there's a title area, and then there's also Title I and Title III. So the skinny about is finding the smallest number of high leverage actions that can unleash stunningly powerful consequences. And we're focused on 3. We've been talking to schools and principals about less is more. And we've got to be critical and think long and hard about the 1, 2, or 3 interventions or focus that we have within our schools. And those, for us, are high-quality curriculum and materials focused on essential standards and skills, the blueprints and learning hubs, the common vision for teaching and learning, or the instructional framework, being vigilant about read, write, think, and talk in every lesson every day. And then professional learning teams and collaborative planning. We've got to know, what do students need to know and be able to do? It's the essential standards. How will we know when they've learned it? And then through common assessments. And what will we do if they don't learn it, which is interventions, reteachings, and retakes. So those are our 3 focuses, or foci. And now I'm going to turn it back over to the superintendent.
Yep, and we are almost done. Day is getting late. So I ended the summit presentation talking about what we're doing to help ensure that every student graduates, ready for college and the workforce. So I thought you might be interested in seeing this. As the grades come out, one of the first things you'll notice is our graduation rate, and you can see that the projected rate, it's never final until the state actually blesses it, but is predicted of our district-operated schools to be at 92% this year. So again, very proud of that, and wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Frances calculates this. I don't think she's ever been wrong. I think she said it is 91.9%.
Kiss of death on that one.
Yeah, so
Just said it out loud, yeah, right?
she's always scared when I share this, because she's like, it's not official yet, but she's never, it might have been off like a point. But And then I wanted to make sure that, you've seen all of this, so it's not something, I did share this with the community. Talked a lot about our night school programs that have gone extremely well. We know they're in every one of our high schools. Something that I've already said needs to be a funding priority as we think about ESSER going away and we have to do some prioritization of funds. The night school program is something that we are just seeing an incredible impact on our students in terms of graduation rate as well as getting them all, whether it's the 10th grade ELA or the Algebra 1 exam, just that intensive instruction and interventions happening in our high school programs has been tremendous. But I don't think you've seen an update on the Lincoln Park now that it is in its renovation stage. This was a rendering that Kelly had presented to you a while back. But I didn't think you'd seen this particular slide. So Lake Technical College, remember Lake Tech and Lake Sumter will have a portion of the building. We've actually added 2 new partners to this project. So LEADS, which is Lake Economic
Area development.
Thank you, is a group that was brought in by the Board of County Commission, and they're working alongside our economic development. They're going to have a space at Lincoln Park that they're going to be utilizing as well as Career Source. So when you think about Lincoln Park, it really is becoming that educational hub for the county. So Lake Technical College is planning on these particular programs. So you can see that they're going to have an introduction to construction where that will be a feeder from our construction academies, as well as introduction to culinary, taking advantage of the kitchen that's there and being able to utilize that space. So we're excited to see that their projects are well underway. Right now, they're working to secure some additional funding. They have what they need for some initial renovations, but they're going to need some more. So they do have an appropriation that was a joint appropriation that was actually submitted by Lake Technical College. And so we'll be pushing that when we go to Tallahassee this year. Right now, it's a little early. We have not seen I know that Senator Baxley's been very involved in this project, so he'll be carrying it on the Senate side, and Taylor Yarkowski on the House side will be carrying this for us. But one of the exciting things is they want to use the center to create a community bakery, which was, again, that community aspect of bringing people in where they'll sell baked goods that are whether it be pastries and breads, where people can come in, have a little coffee shop as a way to generate some revenue, just something unique that they've added to the project. I won't go into all of those. And then Lake Sumter is looking as well to add an AS degree program in construction management and engineering technology, as well as industry certifications in mechatronics, and hoping to put in a line worker program over there. That was just some of their initial thoughts. Hopefully that will expand as their footprint continues to expand as well. We do have you all have these great little rack cards. So Frances and her team have brand new ones. They are in my car. I meant to bring them in. I'll make sure you have those if you're out in the community. This is always a great thing to showcase and share with community and business leaders. I know you often are speaking at Rotaries and Chamber events yourselves, and it's something that you can hand out just to highlight the different programs, and we encourage businesses to be part of the advisory committees for each of the programs. So that was kind of my final to the group is if there's a CTE program on the card that is connected to your area of business or a special interest that you have, please contact the number below and be a part of the advisory committees. We know that our industry certification numbers went up 129% last year. These continue to increase both at the middle school. These are the high school numbers. The middle schools increased from, I think, 69% to 72%. They'll be reflected in our grades as well, so we're super excited to see these numbers continuing to expand. That's more and more students taking and passing industry certifications every year. And then, of course, this was more about teaching and learning. We still are maintaining a very laser focus on school safety, the Structured Classroom Project. Lake Hills, along with our Education Foundation, wrote a $400,000 grant for resources and training on the Structured Classroom. So that is really progressing well. We're seeing a lot of impacts on that. Hoping that the application that Lake Sumter State College has submitted to the Florida Department of Education to add an elementary education program will be approved. We're waiting for I think it'll be June, right, Ms. Luke, before we get to whether or not they get approved for that. We're certainly partnering with them on that. And then just continuing to make sure that all of our students and staff receive all the necessary training in regards to youth mental health that has been a strategic focus for us as well. So that was a lot, and I said it would be brief, and it wasn't that brief, was it?
To be fair, I might have
But I
asked
tried
some
to,
questions.
I tried to talk,
You're welcome.
tried to talk fast,
I'll take the
but we have a lot going on, great team, we're just so proud of what's happening, and we're definitely seeing the recovery since the COVID slide that had occurred for everybody, but I think we're rebounding nicely, and I'm doing great things for kids. I'm proud of the work that's happening, and we're going to continue to improve. We've got a long ways to go, but we made a lot of gains as well, so.
Do you have a sense about where we're going to be as a district grading? Any idea?
I don't think any of us know at this point because we haven't seen the retrofitted files. We haven't seen the application of the new, I guess they're calling them cut scores and what that's going to look like. It's all a big mystery. So it's a lot of work behind the scenes. You know, only certain percentages can be an A or a B based on.
25% B?
Yeah.
That's so odd. Doesn't make any sense to assign that. That's weird.
Yeah. So it's hard to know how it's going to play out. Again, it's baseline, and I think it's up to us to make sure that the community, as they look at numbers, that if they see a decline in a school, that it's, not actually be reflective of what's happening, especially schools that have historically done quite well with learning gains, taking those students who aren't kindergarten ready as they enter kindergarten and being able to get them, from year to year, closing that achievement gap. They may not get to proficient, but they've made substantial gains. That's not going to be reflective in this year's numbers. So it's,
Which is going to, I feel like that's going to hurt our schools that are at the lowest part of those categories, because those are the
Exactly.
students that they're benefiting by making this with substantial gains.
Correct. So,
Thank you, ma'am.
all right.
We appreciate you.
Thank you all. Thank you for your time. Long morning.
Board member comments, Mr. Mathias?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Dodd? Ms. Luke?
Do you have, I know you mentioned the ESSER funds and some of the priorities and stuff. Do you have an idea of when you might, I guess it'll be funding for next year when we start talking about some of those things, right?
We're already talking about them.
Right, okay.
Number of things, priorities and allocations and everything we're going to.
You mentioned the kindergarten, I think in first grade tutors, I wrote it down somewhere, but the academic tutors at those grade levels, I was just curious if those positions are filled. Like, I know we just recently reenacted paying our teachers' assistants if they're covering classes, and so then I wondered how those positions are being filled and if they're being used as substitutes. So we can wait that conversation since you just said this is long, and neither of you had comments, and so that's fine. And it'll maybe add to that work whenever we get to whittling down, but I'd be interested in that work. And
We'll definitely take a look at those positions in particular.
Mr. Brandyburg?
You know I always have to say something, but brief. Ms. Cunningham and I got to attend the Florida School Board Association Annual Conference last week, and as always, it makes us so appreciative of our superintendent, our senior staff, our teachers, everyone that makes this district so strong, because I tell you, we are in such a better position than nearly any other county school district in the state. Once again, Scott Ward gave a presentation on finance. He is the guru of all things numbers. Sherry Owens was there for some different sections as well. So just very complimentary of our staff as always, and from the other board members. Some of the issues they're dealing with in other counties, we've got very little to none of them here. So just something to be very appreciative of.
I know this is hard for you to imagine, but there are actually people in other districts, they don't like each other. They are unable to sit together and have a professional meeting. So we're very proud of the fact that we're able to do that. Mrs. Quiningy, do you have any comments?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Myers?
Nope, I'm good.
Well, if that's the case and everyone's okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, let it be known by your usual sign of aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Meeting.